When I was 15, I lent Jiang Ruchuan my Koi's good fortune. Jiang Ruchuan blamed her death entirely on me. Half a year later, his wealthy parents came to the orphanage and took him home. Jiang Ruchuan's mother couldn't bear to see his two kids kneeling through the night, so she pleaded and threw a fit until old man Jiang finally relented. At 18, I stopped him from dating the school beauty who bullied me. She later died instantly in a car crash. He thought everything I did was just making a scene, always siding with outsiders to put me down. But my heart was only set on what was best for him. The result is becoming a starving ghost. The next day, the video of Xiao Liqian bullying me went viral online. He tore up my exam admission ticket, making me miss the college entrance exam and ruining my life. Things spiraled out of control. Public outrage grew over why school bullying remains so prevalent. Forced into homelessness, Jiang Ruchuan still wouldn't let me go, stuffing me into a coffin and burying me alive. But Xiao Liqian, accustomed to throwing her weight around, didn't care at all and immediately started hurling vicious insults. When I woke again, I had been reborn back to age 18. This time I would reclaim my lucky charm fortune. Furious, Jiang Ruchuan slapped her outright. Xiao Liqian stared in disbelief, her jaw hanging open. Tears like pearls streamed from her eyes as she covered her face and walked away. "I'm so hungry," I murmured, my eyes vacant. I saw Xiao Liqian spamming a flood of posts on the platform, hoping Jiang Ruchuan would act like he used to. Pedestrians streamed past on the street, and those who spotted me immediately veered away with looks of disgust. When I got into the taxi, I knew all along that Jiang Ruchuan was watching me from the balcony upstairs. I paid no mind to their strange stares and spotted a trash can ahead. I couldn't even be bothered to lift my gaze, shuffling unsteadily over. I painfully bent my upper body deep into the bin to rummage around. This time, luck was on my side. Throughout my 4 years of university, I was busy with part-time writing gigs to earn extra cash, juggling studies and lab work, and eventually graduated with top honors. I found a portion of spoiled leftover rice, glistening with a translucent green liquid, and without a second thought, I shoved it all into my mouth. When the university awarded me a scholarship, I quit my side jobs and devoted myself entirely to the field of medicine. I haven't eaten anything in 3 days. When I tried chewing that spoiled, barely edible food, I couldn't even keep it down for a few seconds before retching and vomiting everything up. A decade after graduation, I'd become the top surgeon in my department. Now back in my old college town, Auntie Jiang often invites me over for meals, but I always decline using work as an excuse. My stomach growled with hunger, and suddenly my eyes began to sting. Clutching the trash can tightly, my throat choked up, but the tears in my eyes seemed to have dried up completely. But I still make sure to send over holiday gifts every single year. Not a single tear would fall. All that came out were hoarse, ugly sobs. That day, I had just stepped out of the operating room when a colleague told me there was a pleasant surprise waiting in my office. I'd give anything for a bowl of fragrant rice right now, but for someone like me, that feels almost impossible. After 8 straight hours of surgery, I could barely keep my eyes open. "Whatever it is," I mumbled, "it can't possibly compete with my need to collapse into bed right this second. You must be starving." Jiang Ruchuan stood behind me, his tone icy with a hint of mockery. I sniffled without looking at him, too exhausted to even lift my head as I leaned against the trash can. Flies buzzed angrily around my face, disturbed from their feast. "What game are you playing this time?" I said weakly. Ever since the school belle Xiao Liqian died, Jiang Ruchuan had schemed to make my adoptive parents disappointed in me, tarnished my reputation, and turned everyone against me. The whole city blacklisted me. I couldn't dine in restaurants. No one dared hire me, not even for washing dishes on the street. Jiang Ruchuan was toying with me slowly, and just when I was on the verge of starvation, he proposed playing another game. Whenever he was in a good mood, he'd give me a steamed bun or a bowl of plain rice. They broadcasted me scrubbing every public toilet in the city clean, with the reward being 2 steamed buns. They put an iron chain around my neck, paraded me down the street for everyone to gawk at, and even let people ride on my back, all for a bowl of plain rice as a reward. Jiang Ruchuan sneered and told the bodyguard behind him, "Take him away." The bodyguard roughly dragged me by the arms toward a nearby van. The searing pain from my feet scraping against the ground made me bite down hard on my lower lip until a few drops of blood welled up. Jiang Ruchuan watched me with icy eyes, completely indifferent even as my blood left a crimson trail on the pavement. Bystanders whispered among themselves, but no one dared intervene. Who would risk provoking the unpredictable young master? The last person who tried to help me is still hospitalized with shattered hands and fingers broken in multiple places. So I stopped hoping for anyone to save me. I couldn't bear the thought of someone else getting hurt because of me. With vacant eyes, I stared at Jiang Ruchuan standing in the sunlight. He was no longer the big brother who used to have eyes only for me. Gone was the boy who, when the orphanage director was too stingy to feed us properly, would climb through the kitchen window in the dead of night to steal steamed buns for my growling stomach. I still remember crouching in the corner, my eyes red-rimmed as I wolfed down those buns. "Are you a pig? Slow down when you eat." Jiang Ruchuan gently patted my head and said softly. I wasn't crying because I was hungry. It was because the orphanage director caught Jiang Ruchuan stealing steamed buns and beat him brutally with a wooden stick. He desperately shielded the buns in his arms. When he finally brought them to me, his body was covered in bruises. His gaunt face still bore a few streaks of dried blood, but his eyes sparkled as he grinned and urged me to eat quickly. "You're just impossible, aren't you? Guess I'll have to work hard to earn enough to keep you fed from now on." "Heh." Jiang Ruchuan said this with careless cheer, but I only buried my face deeper, tears flowing more and more uncontrollably. It was the first time anyone had ever been this good to me. I'm so touched. So back then, I lent Jiang Ruchuan my koi fish luck, and he never got caught by the headmaster again when sneaking meat buns. Every time he went bird's nesting, he'd come back with a whole basket full of eggs. After that, everything went smoothly for him, and even the headmaster started treating him well. I wouldn't have to go hungry anymore. Whenever Jiang Ruchuan got something good, I'd be the first person he thought of. A sharp cramp in my stomach jolted me back to reality. I'd been thrown into a van, and Jiang Ruchuan's figure vanished from my sight. When I came to, I found myself in a cramped space. At the thought, my whole body shuddered. A tingling numbness spread across my back, as if someone had jabbed live wires straight into my flesh. "Let me out, let me out." Jiang Ruchuan knew perfectly well about my severe claustrophobia. My heart skipped a beat. Tears welled up in my parched eyes as my pulse quickened. A wave of dread washed over me. I kept screaming for help, gradually feeling my breath growing labored. The small speaker in the space crackled to life. "Jiang Qinxue, this is what you deserve. If it weren't for you, Li Qian wouldn't have died." I could no longer hear what Jiang Ruchuan was saying after that. As my consciousness began to fade, I was the one who saved Xiao Liqian in the first place. "You're the one who got Xiao Liqian killed. So why am I the one suffering, too? Hey, blockhead, are you even listening to me?" A haughty female voice reached my ears. My mind went blank with a crash. Before the fear of claustrophobia could fade, Jiang Ruchuan's expressionless face came into view. I thought this was the afterlife, and a surge of bitter resentment overwhelmed me. I swung my arm with all my might and slapped Jiang Ruchuan hard across the face. He stared at me in stunned confusion, still processing what had happened. Xiao Liqian, who had been speaking earlier, gasped and rushed forward, shoving me to the ground. "Are you insane? I was talking to you and you didn't even respond. Why would you hit Ruchuan? Have you lost your mind?" Xiao Liqian tenderly touched Jiang Ruchuan's swollen cheek. "Ruchuan, I told you your sister has issues, but you didn't believe me. Now she's even hitting you." Still seething with rage, she shot me a venomous glare and lunged forward with another kick, which I swiftly dodged. "How dare you dodge?" Seconds later, Xiao Liqian's piercing shrieks filled the air as I pounced on her like a rabid tigress, yanking viciously at her hair. Strands of hair fluttered to the ground like fallen feathers. My eyes welled with bitter tears of rage, yet my hands only grew more ruthless. "It's all because of you, you wretched woman. You're the reason my life has been so miserable. This is all your fault." By the time Jiang Ruchuan realized what was happening, I had already knocked Xiao Liqian to the ground. Only then did any expression finally appear on his face. He shoved me away angrily, then carefully gathered Xiao Liqian in his arms. I could see his hands trembling. I frowned, only now becoming aware of the stinging pain in my hands. It finally dawned on me that I had been reborn, transported back to the time when Xiao Liqian and Jiang Ruchuan were secretly flirting with each other. Watching the two of them, I curled my lips into a smile, my nails digging so deep into my flesh that it became a bloody mess, yet I felt no pain at all. 3. Xiao Liqian was the real deal, a genuine rich heiress, while I, a mere adopted daughter of the Jiang family, had slapped her right in front of everyone. The school didn't dare sweep it under the rug, and they ended up calling in the parents. "Mom, this is the one, she hit Ruchuan and me too. Someone with such terrible character shouldn't be allowed to stay in our school." Xiao Liqian held an ice pack while pointing at me with pure hatred in her eyes. Mrs. Xiao was dressed in professional attire. I remembered her as a career-driven woman, decisive and efficient, who also happened to be a school shareholder. She saw the bruises covering her daughter's body and the patches on her scalp where I had torn out clumps of hair. His expression was unnervingly calm as Jiang Ruchuan stepped forward and gave Aunt Xia a deep, sincere bow. Aunt Xia. I failed to discipline my younger sister properly, and your daughter got hurt because of it. He then came over, pressed down on my neck to force an apology to Xia Liqian, but I resisted and refused to give him the satisfaction. In my past life, when I first caught the two of them acting suspiciously under that tree, I'd merely approached them with a slightly harsh tone. She showed me no mercy and beat me so badly I ended up in the hospital. While the school just sent a fruit basket and some flowers as a token gesture, and just like that, the matter was swept under the rug. Fuming with anger, I was calmed down by Jiang Ruchuan, who said, "Just stay away from Xia Liqian from now on. She's from a powerful family, we're no match for her. It's better to avoid trouble than to invite it." Having always trusted Jiang Ruchuan, I swallowed my pride and let it go, until I stumbled upon them having a secret rendezvous later on. Xia Liqian asked Jiang Ruchuan if he felt sorry for his sister being beaten. Jiang Ruchuan's previously heavy breathing turned cold. Why bring her up? She's just a side project I'm stringing along. That night, my tears wouldn't stop falling no matter what. Xia Liqian's retaliation grew increasingly vicious. After lending Jiang Ruchuan my luck, my personal energy field weakened, and my fortune took a drastic turn for the worse. Every time I turned a corner, I'd run into Xia Liqian. Like that time I was bullied and came home trembling all over. Jiang Ruchuan looked at me with disgust and said, "How many times have I told you? Why do you keep provoking Qianqian? You brought this on yourself, getting hurt like that." After Jiang Ruchuan met Xia Liqian, he changed. He wasn't the big brother I trusted anymore, the one who used to sneak me meat buns. Seeing my refusal to apologize, Jiang Ruchuan grew furious and tightened his grip. "Apologize, Mrs. Jiang," who had remained silent until then, couldn't bear to watch and stepped in to mediate. I slapped away the hand on my neck and wiped the spot with a tissue in disgust. Jiang Ruchuan's face darkened. I let out a cold laugh. I may be at fault, but isn't she equally to blame? Why should I be the one to apologize? I saw Jiang Ruchuan pinned against a tree trunk by a woman and thought he was being harassed. Little did I know you two were. I paused mid-sentence, and the expressions in the room shifted instantly. Xia Liqian tried to cut me off. "Jiang Qinxue, what nonsense are you spouting?" But the words had already tumbled out. I didn't realize they were kissing. I thought someone was bullying my brother and went to help. Next thing I know, I'd interrupted their moment and Xia Liqian came at me, shoved me to the ground and hurled the vilest insults. "Check the security footage if you don't believe me." As soon as I finished speaking, Xia Liqian turned pale, her lips trembling as she looked at her mother. Jiang Ruchuan at this moment pressed his lips tightly together, the corners of his eyes reddening as he stared at me, but I paid him no mind. "Mrs. Xia is a woman with extremely strict family values. How could she tolerate her daughter getting involved in romance at such a young age? Xia Liqian only dares to throw her weight around outside the home." Just as expected, Xia Liqian, who had originally intended to cause trouble for me, was now racking her brains for a way to get past her mother. "You're in for it when we get home, Mrs. Xia's expression darkened as she dragged Xia Liqian out of the principal's office. When we got home, both Jiang Ruchuan and I were made to kneel as punishment in the backyard. I was punished for fighting, while he was punished for lying to our parents. Back then, he had sworn up and down that he was completely focused on his studies and planned to take over the family business someday. When Dad Jiang found out about him and the school beauty, he flew into a rage and made us kneel down first. If you get first place in this month's exam, I'll let it slide." Jiang Ruchuan confidently agreed to the demand, saying, "Don't worry, Dad, I'll still be top of the grade no matter what." I stood off to the side where no one could see me, letting out a cold sneer. "You might not hold on to that first place for long." Jiang Ruchuan's success, I'm the one who lent him that luck. After Jiang Ruchuan returned, life didn't get any easier. His father had high expectations. He was to study finance and excel in every subject. He was grooming Jiang Ruchuan as his successor, but Jiang had grown up in an orphanage, where even his schooling had been sporadic, compared to his peers who had received elite education since childhood. He struggled noticeably more. Countless nights I watched him studying himself to exhaustion, until I'd rush over to hold him and whisper, "Don't worry, brother, as long as Qinxue stays by your side, everything will get better." No one knew my secret, that through my voluntary embrace, I could transfer my own fortune to him. Not even Jiang Ruchuan from back then knew. I was afraid of hurting his ego, especially since he attributed everything to his natural talent. "Now that I'm not lending you anything, let's see how you manage to come in first." The news of me hitting Xia Liqian spread throughout the school, and some even gossiped about their relationship. When Xiao Liqian came to school that day, she glared at me with such intensity, her eyes practically screaming that she wanted to tear me apart. I wasn't afraid to meet her gaze either. Maybe she remembered how ruthless I could be. Because she never bothered me again. I did hear that after she went home, her mom cancelled all her spending cards. She'd only get pocket money if she ranked in the top 30 for exams. Xiao Liqian's grades were always terrible. In fact, she was at the bottom of her class. In her previous life, she only barely passed because Jiang Ruchuan helped her cheat, but even after school, nothing could stop them from their secret rendezvous, which many students witnessed during class. Jiang Ruchuan and Xiao Liqian were making eyes at each other so blatantly that even the teacher couldn't stand it and threw a piece of chalk at them. That's enough, you two. This is your senior year of high school. I know you both come from prominent families, but your grades are what truly prove your capabilities. However, Jiang Ruchuan publicly humiliated the teacher in front of all the students, saying, "Teacher, even if I don't pay attention in your class, I can still be the top student in the entire school." By borrowing my luck, Jiang Ruchuan gained the ability to read 10 lines at a glance and possess a photographic memory. He could recall every question he had ever seen, making exams a breeze for him. Jiang Ruchuan completely disregarded the teacher, even scoffing directly and mocking, "And your class, teacher, is incredibly boring." The teacher's eyes widened like saucers in anger, looking at this Chunibu Jiang Ruchuan. I couldn't understand why I had ever been so smitten with him, so devoted. I suppose Xiao Liqian had a hand in it. I watched her, heavily made up, her clothes altered to be skin-tight, accentuating her newly developing figure, gazing at Jiang Ruchuan with starry eyes. I remembered Xiao Liqian once said she liked mature men. Seeing Jiang Ruchuan's current transformation, it all made sense to me. After that, I stopped paying too much attention to the two of them and focused entirely on studying, reviewing, and attending classes. In my previous life, after I lent out my luck, my memory declined, and bad luck plagued me. Although I still had some luck, with the half I'd lent to Jiang Ruchuan, I only had half left now. Yes, if my luck runs out, it's gone for good. The fortune teller told me that with a very serious expression back then, so all I can rely on is hard work, but that's perfectly fine. I don't regret the fortune I lent out before. Jiang Ruchuan deserved it. He gave me warmth when I needed companionship most. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. The monthly exam came quickly. Although I studied hard this past month, I only made slight progress and couldn't solve several major problems at all. But considering my score of just over 30 points in my previous life, it shouldn't be that bad this time. I listed all the problems I couldn't solve, and as soon as I got home, I quickly ate dinner before rushing into my room to hit the books again. Every night, I'd study until 1 or 2 in the morning, only going to bed when I was completely exhausted. That day, I had just finished solving a problem. Then, I heard noises from outside. I walked to the door and peeked through the crack. Mr. Jiang, dressed in casual clothes, was sitting on the living room sofa. His tone was unreadable as he spoke to Jiang Ruchuan, who reeked of alcohol. "Why are you coming home so late again?" Jiang Ruchuan staggered unsteadily from drinking and said with a smile, "We just finished the monthly exams, so I went out with some classmates to unwind." "Nonsense." Father Jiang slammed the table angrily. "This is a critical time for your college entrance exams. How can you stay out every night just because of some minor monthly test? Is this because you're still seeing that girl from the Xiao family, Dad? We just went out together. It's not like we did anything wrong. Besides, with my abilities, there's no way I'd mess up the exams." Jiang Ruchuan still hadn't grasped the gravity of the situation, remaining characteristically overconfident in himself. Not that he could really notice, with some of my lingering luck still on his side, he wouldn't crash back to his old self all at once, but gradually lose the advantages my fortune had given him. "Humph, I hope you won't let me down. If you could just put in half the effort Qinxue is making now, I wouldn't be so worried about you." Hearing the noise, Mother Jiang came out and comforted Father Jiang, finally easing the tense atmosphere from before. "Son, it's getting late. Tomorrow's the day your grades come out and school starts. You should go back, wash up, and get some sleep." Mrs. Jiang was afraid that if she let the father and son continue to argue, Mr. Jiang would get upset again. Jiang Ruchuan, having been reprimanded repeatedly lately, was starting to look quite displeased. In my previous life, whenever Jiang Ruchuan got into trouble, I would either take the blame for him or tip him off in advance. Jiang Ruchuan often came home late too. After dinner, I would act cute and ask Dad Jiang to play chess with me. When he got tired from playing, he wouldn't have the energy to notice Jiang Ruchuan's unusual behavior. Maybe he still thinks Dad Jiang isn't strict and has always spoiled him, that's why he acts so recklessly. In my previous life, because of my poor grades and all the lies I told for Jiang Ruchuan, he managed to make my adopted parents lose trust in me with just a few words, kicking me out of the house. The next day at school, Jiang Ruchuan pulled me aside. I glanced at my watch with a furrowed brow and said coldly, "You've got 10 minutes. My time is precious, so make it quick." Perhaps my recent aloofness had been too pronounced, because Jiang Ruchuan's expression shifted, but then he continued, "I think you should apologize to Chanqian. After all, you were the one who started it." For some reason, hearing those words still made my heart ache. Back in the orphanage, when we barely had enough to eat, a big kid tried to snatch my food, and I just started fighting with him right then and there. Jiang Ruchuan saw what was happening and without a second thought stepped in front of me. He made the kid apologize to me, regardless of who was right or wrong. Back then, he came to protect me as if stepping out of the light. Just one glance from him and I was completely captivated. The very gestures that moved me as a child are now being directed at me. I said casually, "What if I say no?" Release point. Jiang Ruchuan's face darkened. A flicker of displeasure in his eyes. "Qinxue, don't forget. Without me, you wouldn't be living this life. I've been really fed up with you lately, so you're going against me, is that it?" I laughed, a bright, radiant laugh, but as I laughed, tears welled up in my eyes. "Yes, I just want to oppose you. To be honest, I've had enough of you for a long time too, Jiang Qinxue, you've changed." I ignored him. The 10 minutes were up, and I headed straight to the classroom to study. My time was running out. I needed to seize every single minute and second to secure a safe future for myself. 6. When the monthly exam results came out, Father Jiang flew into a rage, grabbing the ashtray from the table and hurling it at Jiang Ruchuan's forehead. "Look at your grades. You didn't even make the top 10 in the class, let alone first place. You're driving me crazy." Jiang Ruchuan used to easily secure the top spot, but suddenly his ranking plummeted, not even making the top 10. He knelt on the floor, head bowed in silence, while Mother Jiang watched bright red blood trickle down her son's forehead. With a look of deep concern, she gently rubbed Mr. Jiang's back to help him calm down, then pleaded, "Honey, please don't get so worked up. Our son just came back, and he never really focused on his studies before. Maybe the pressure has been too much lately, and he just didn't perform as expected." Mr. Jiang was too furious to speak. Mrs. Jiang quickly had a maid bring a first aid kit to stop Jiang Ruchuan's bleeding. Her heart aching as she said, "Son, quickly apologize to your dad. Tell him you'll study hard from now on, and you'll definitely get first place again next month." "Okay, Mr. Jiang," still quite angry, interjected, "What pressure? I think he's just been hanging out with that bad girl from the Xia family, and that's why his grades are slipping." Jiang Ruchuan bristled with defiance and retorted petulantly, "Dad, we're just close friends. Don't speak of her that way. I'll definitely come in first next time." I was careless this round. Hearing this, I smirked imperceptibly. "Close friends, I knew you'd say that. That's why I'd already hired someone to tail them both earlier. Those photos must have reached Mr. Jiang by now." Sure enough, Mr. Jiang stood up and flung a cascade of photo albums that rained down over Jiang Ruchuan's head. He roared in fury. "Humph, an unfilial son, arrogant and deceitful. I'm ashamed to call you my own." He saw photos scattered on the floor, Jiang Ruchuan dancing intimately with Xiao Liqian at a bar, entering and leaving hotel rooms together, sharing a single straw at a cafe in the afternoon. Panic flashed across Jiang Ruchuan's face, his expression shifting through a kaleidoscope of emotions. He scrambled to his father's feet, pleading, "Dad, please listen. None of this is real. It must be AI generated. You have to believe me. I didn't do any of this time." Father Jiang remained unmoved, his voice icy as he stated, "The truth hardly matters now. You're not my only son. If you prove incapable of bearing the responsibilities of succession, I'll ensure you're provided for. But taking over the company, that depends entirely on whether you've got what it takes." At that moment, Jiang Ruchuan truly panicked. He repeatedly kowtowed, admitting his mistakes and promising that such a thing would never happen again. In my previous life, with my luck blessing him, everything Jiang Ruchuan did came easily, and he won countless awards. This made him a favorite of Dad Jiang. That's why Dad Jiang wanted to groom Jiang Ruchuan as his successor. It was more out of guilt that he showed him such favoritism. But what I never expected was that Jiang Ruchuan would later use the happiness he'd gained, happiness that was hard-won, against me, leading to my tragic death. Even now, The thought of claustrophobia before death still sends shivers down my spine. I'd also sent a copy to Xiao Liqian's mother. I'm quite curious to see what kind of situation she's in now. I deliberately checked her grades. She was 10th from the bottom. Yeah, overall, they make a pretty good couple. I passed every subject this time, unlike my previous life when I failed. After the monthly exam results came out, their secret meetings became less brazen than before. Jiang Ruchuan started studying seriously. But the more his brows furrowed, the more anxiety showed on his face. I can't help but feel a quiet anticipation for how hard he'll push himself. 7. After school, Xiao Liqian had some people corner me at school. Her eyebrows shot up, and she said sharply, "You bitch, did you send those things to my mom?" I raised an eyebrow, surprised she'd even think it was me, but I really didn't want to deal with her. So I clutched my backpack and tried to leave. "I don't know what you're talking about. Move. You're blocking my way home to study." My mind is completely consumed by exam questions right now. While walking earlier, a solution suddenly flashed through my mind, and now I'm itching to pull out my notebook and work through it immediately. It's just a shame that given the current situation, that's probably not possible. Trying to leave, even if it weren't for this, I've had it with you for a long time. You're nothing but a parasite leeching off Brother Ruchuan's family. Just the thought of attending the same school as someone like you makes me sick. This school is no place for a pauper like you. The people around me started jeering. I scanned every face in the room, committing each one to memory. They began rolling up their sleeves, ready for a fight. I clenched my jaw, remembering how in my past life they had beaten me black and blue, leaving me barely able to get out of bed. Even if a fight breaks out today, I won't let them walk away unscathed. They kept backing me into a corner. When Xiao Liqian gave the order, I sneered, "Xiao Liqian, you're going to regret this." Ha. I wouldn't be scared even if God himself showed up. "If I don't beat you to a pulp today, my name isn't Xia." As she yelled, "Why are you all just standing there? Get them." My face was panicked, and I still couldn't dodge a few punches, but the next second, everyone who rushed forward was screaming, falling to the ground and clutching their eyes. I pointed at them with pepper spray in one hand and a stun baton in the other, shouting furiously, "Come on, bring it, even if it costs me my life. I'm taking you all down with me." The pepper spray filled the air, forcing the people behind to step back. Seizing the moment, I bolted away in a flash. They chased after me, and just then I spotted a teacher up ahead. Seeing a student being bullied, he shouted, "What are you doing?" The people chasing after me all turned and ran in the opposite direction when they heard that. Gasping for breath, I thanked the teacher. He checked that I wasn't injured before relaxing, then said to someone behind him, "Ruchuan, since you're here, you might as well take your sister home." That's when I noticed Jiang Ruchuan standing behind the teacher, though he looked rather displeased as he bowed and said, "Okay, teacher." I felt like his attitude was off. And just as I was trying to figure things out, his next words made me laugh out of sheer annoyance. He said, right in front of the teacher, "Jiang Qinxue, you're actually learning to fight now." I rolled my eyes and scoffed, "Bro, can't you see I was being chased and bullied? As my brother, you didn't even bother to check on me first, and now you're blaming me. Are you out of your mind? I see you're holding a weapon." Jiang Ruchuan said with a stern expression. Seeing him like this, I almost wanted to let it go. After all, he isn't really my brother in any meaningful sense. It was nothing more than my own wishful thinking. I raised the pepper spray and stun baton in my hands and said sarcastically, "Since my own family won't protect me and would rather defend outsiders, what's wrong with me keeping some self-defense items?" Jiang Ruchuan's expression became unpredictable again. I added, "Oh, right. I don't have any family anymore, and I don't need any in the future." "What are you being so unreasonable about now?" This time, I ignored him completely, turned around, and went home by myself. In my previous life, after I came to the Jiang family with Jiang Ruchuan, his attitude started to change. Furious at Xiao Liqian's remark that the poor don't deserve to attend the same school as her, outraged that she bullied vulnerable classmates by flaunting her privileged background. Infuriated by her abuse of power, the school's attempt to cover it up failed completely due to the massive public outcry, which prompted even her previous victims to come forward. When netizens demanded proof, they released videos and photos showing themselves beaten into intensive care. I haven't seen Xiao Liqian at school these past few days. I guess she's at home, trying to figure out how to suppress this. In her past life, Xiao Liqian always used her family's shareholder status at the school to get away with all sorts of mischief and bully people. Whenever something happened, they'd just throw some money at it to make it disappear, leaving those who wanted justice completely helpless. But not this time. I've given all the pocket money I earned from my part-time writing over the years to those big influencers to really push my story. This caused such a massive uproar that it instantly trended online. And even Xia family group stock plummeted overnight. All the products they sold got returned. Pfft, we're just common folks, can't afford their fancy stuff anyway, ha. I'd rather buy domestic brands than their overpriced junk. Seriously, a trash can for over $100. Netizens were tagging those business partners in comments, saying they'd boycott their products too if they collaborated. They all fell silent immediately, afraid to make another move. One night I was studying until midnight. And right after I turned off the lights, I heard sobbing sounds outside. 8. I got up and peeked through the curtains to see Xiao Liqian running toward Jiang Ruchuan before throwing herself into his arms. Wah, brother Ruchuan, what am I going to do? It's all your sister's fault. You have to teach her a lesson for me. Sob, my mom is sending me abroad to lay low for a while. What should I do? I don't want to leave you. Her coquettish voice, dripping with honeyed sweetness, was particularly striking in the silent night, even though she spoke in hushed tones, yet every word came through crystal clear. As the moonlight bathed Jiang Ruchuan's jade-like face, I noticed his expression growing impatient, his eyes repeatedly darting toward the upstairs. This is his adoptive parents' room. He must be afraid of getting caught. He gently pushed Xiao Liqian away as she leaned in for a kiss and whispered, Qian, it's best if you don't come see me for a while. Xiao Liqian flared up, her voice shrill. Are you looking down on me like everyone else? Now that my family's in trouble, this is how you treat me? That's not it, just hear me out, Jiang Ruchuan said, stepping forward to cover Xiao Liqian's mouth. He bought all sorts of things to appease her, to apologize, but this time her plan seemed to backfire. Jiang Ruchuan spent increasingly more time studying at school and completely ignored her. Her temper grew increasingly volatile. Even while I was doing revision problems in my room, I could hear things being smashed next door. Perhaps he was slowly realizing that his mind was becoming duller, or that his ability to skim through pages had vanished. He couldn't even answer when the teacher called his name in class. His classmates started giving him strange looks, and some outright said, oh, so you were top of the class before, acting all high and mighty. Bet you cheated on all those previous exams. Yeah, right. We never even saw him study much before, yet he aced every exam with ease, like he had a photographic memory or something. Jiang Ruchuan completely lost it and started throwing punches at the guys who were talking about him right then and there. Stop spreading lies. I didn't cheat. I never cheated. His frenzied demeanor sent classmates scattering. The instigating boy picked himself up from the ground, wiping blood from his mouth. He sneered, I heard they're installing surveillance cameras for this month's exams to prevent cheating. Let's see if you can actually improve your scores. Jiang Ruchuan retorted defiantly, you think I'm scared? Cameras or not, I'll still be number one. The male classmate smirked even more smugly and said, alright then, let's make a bet. If you don't come in first on the monthly exam, wait, no, if you don't make the top 10. You have to run naked across the field while shouting I'm an idiot. The classmates, always eager for drama, started egging them on. Jiang Ruchuan, his face dark with anger, gritted his teeth and agreed, fine, but if I do make the top 10, then you're the one running naked and shouting I'm a dog. The male classmate shot back, as if I'm scared of you. He left the classroom whistling, but a week before the monthly exam, Xiao Liqian was in a car accident and ended up in the ICU. With no signs of waking up yet. 9. When I heard the news, I was quite taken aback. In my previous life, I came across Xiao Liqian being dragged into an alley by a few tall, burly delinquents with dyed blonde hair. Xiao Liqian struggled desperately, but how could a girl's strength match that of men, especially several grown men? Qian, you promised me that if I helped you deal with those pests you couldn't stand, you'd be my girlfriend. It's been so long, why haven't you agreed yet? Hiding in the distance, I could hear the leader of the men grabbing Xiao Liqian by the shoulders, but she slapped him across the face. With a look of disgust, she said, who do you think you are? You want me to be your girlfriend? You're not even worthy. The blonde man's face darkened instantly. He glared at her and said, oh, we'll see if you're still worthy of me after today. The men behind him all let out lewd chuckles. Xiao Liqian's face turned pale, and she clutched her chest defensively. What do you want? The next second, no matter how much Xiao Liqian resisted, it was useless. Screams mingled with the sound of tearing clothes. I had called the police, and I kept anxiously looking outside, but the sound of sirens never came. Finally, I mustered the courage to step forward and shout, the police are here. The people inside stopped what they were doing, but when no sirens were heard, they realized I had tricked them. Several men came towards me with angry expressions. So I immediately took off running. There was a school nearby, and there were still some students and teachers around. I had no choice but to call out to them for help. In the end, Xiao Liqian was saved, but her clothes were torn, and her skin was left with several red marks and scratches. Humiliated and shamed in front of the whole school, she took out all her frustration on me. She blamed me for calling the teachers and classmates for help, and for letting people see her being carried out of the alley, disheveled and barely dressed. She ran to Jiang Ruchuan and tried to pin the blame on me, but he just looked at her with disgust. He noticed the marks on Xiao Liqian's body, and the disgust in his eyes was so obvious that she caught it immediately. Furious, she turned and ran away, but then out of nowhere, a car came speeding around the corner and hit them. They died instantly. Yet Jiang Ruchuan pinned all the blame on me, twisting the facts to make me out to be the one at fault. In our previous life, Jiang Ruchuan was the school's pride and joy, top grades, and he'd won awards representing our school in numerous competitions, so when he spoke, people took his word as truth. Even when someone who was there at the time spoke up in my defense, they later vanished without a trace. I used to wonder why things turned out this way, but now I understand. Jiang Ruchuan would do anything for his own future. It was the first time I felt so sick. I spent half an hour throwing up in the bathroom. Only later did I find out that Xiao Liqian was preparing to go abroad, but she still couldn't let go of Jiang Ruchuan, so she came to ask him if he would wait for her to come back. She also caught the flicker of disgust in Jiang Ruchuan's eyes. Heartbroken, she covered her face and ran away, only to be hit by a suddenly appearing vehicle. In this life, because Xiao Liqian was locked at home by her mother, she had already missed the time when those blonde delinquents would have harassed her. Yet she never expected she still couldn't escape the fate of being hit by a car. The only difference was she didn't die instantly this time. After composing myself, I got back into study mode. I knew I had to carve out my own path through learning. On the day the second monthly exam results were released, Jiang Ruchuan got cornered at the classroom entrance. 10. The guy provoking him was Li Ming, the school's top student who'd had it out for Jiang Ruchuan for ages. He showed up with a bunch of buddies and sneered, "Hey, where you rushing off to? A bet's a bet. Time to strip naked on the field and call yourself an idiot." Instantly, the whole crowd erupted into jeers and eager anticipation. The moment the results came out, I saw Jiang Ruchuan's ranking plummet to 50th place, not even close to the bottom of the top 10. His face flushed crimson, fists clenched tightly, eyes fixed fiercely on Li Ming, teeth grinding audibly, yet he couldn't utter a single word. He'd made that bet in front of everyone, and now, seeing Jiang Ruchuan speechless, Li Ming sneered, "Why glare at me? You're just incompetent. Seems you really were cheating. The moment cameras were installed, your scores dropped. Frankly, you're not even as good as that girl in the corner. At least she works hard and her progress is consistent." I was just sitting there and got called out. I froze for a second as Li Ming looked at me with an unreadable expression. The next second, Jiang Ruchuan bumped into his shoulder and walked out. Li Ming laughed, "Ooh-hoo, everyone, come quick. Come watch our former golden boy call me an idiot." But Jiang Ruchuan didn't go to the sports field. He didn't keep his promise. Instead, he ran off to drink. Dad Jiang had long been utterly disappointed in Jiang Ruchuan. Aside from giving him pocket money every month, he wouldn't give him the time of day otherwise. As for Mother Jiang, there was nothing she could do to help. Jiang Ruchuan came to me seeking comfort, his eyes red-rimmed as he said, "Qin Xue, you're all I have left." Disgusted by the sight of him, I slapped him across the face again and uttered coldly, "Get out." I saw the hurt look in his eyes, found it irritating, and slammed the door shut with force. Through relentless studying, I was admitted to a reputable medical school with the goal of becoming a doctor. Meanwhile, Jiang Ruchuan squandered his early years coasting on borrowed luck and never applied himself properly. Even his last-minute cramming during the final semester couldn't salvage things. He only managed to get into a second-tier college, which his father found humiliating. The old man decided to ship him abroad for some gilded credentials before bringing him back. After the college entrance exams, I declined further support from Jiang's family and moved to another city to work my way through college independently. I insisted on paying my own tuition. The day I packed my bags to leave, Mrs. Zhang's eyes were red from crying. She couldn't bear to see me go. "We can certainly afford to support you. Even if you go to another city, we can still help you through college." Mr. Jiang stood by, his heart aching, and tried to persuade me. But I turned down all his offers. They knew it was because my relationship with Jiang Ruchuan had completely shattered. I still remember how he used to cling to his father's hand. He pointed at me and said, "Can we take her with us? As my little sister." I promised I'd look after her, but he never kept that promise. Instead, he kept badmouthing me to Mom and Dad Jiang, pinning his own mistakes on me. People are emotional beings. You can always sense these things. Seeing my mind was made up. Dad Jiang sighed and let me go. 11. Remember Ling Qing, the patient discharged the year before last, the one with paralyzed legs who regained the ability to stand after your surgery. He's here today to present you with an appreciation banner. Instantly reinvigorated, I hurried toward the office. A colleague's voice trailed behind me. "Oh, look who's suddenly full of energy. Just a moment ago you were complaining about being exhausted." But the sight of a patient with an appreciation banner sure perked you right up. Inside the office, the slender figure of Ling Qing stood upright beside my desk, holding a red banner. His face lit up when he saw me, and he said happily, "Dr. Jiang, I can't thank you enough. If it weren't for your exceptional skills and perseverance, I might have been confined to a wheelchair for life." I helped the woman beside me to her feet. She was Ling Qing's wife, and said with a gentle smile, "The thanks should go to you. This is simply what we healthcare professionals are meant to do. Thank you for that lifetime when, despite your own physical limitations, you fought through the crowd to give me that bowl of rice porridge, even when Jiang Ruchuan shattered all 10 of your fingers in retaliation. That's why I became a doctor, to treat his disability and help him walk again." Later, Xiao Liqian, who had been paralyzed and living upstairs, passed away. That day, I saw a familiar face. Jiang Ruchuan stood off to the side, head bowed and full of self-doubt, hoping to catch one last glimpse of Xiao Liqian. But Xiao's mother spotted him and called the bodyguards to throw him out. As he shielded his head, his eyes briefly met mine. They just fled in a panic. Looking at the person in front of me, my heart felt completely still. After Jiang Ruchuan returned from abroad, his reputation wasn't great. His father was furious about him chasing women and hanging out in clubs overseas. He immediately cut off all his cards, leaving him to fend for himself, and even kicked him out of the Jiang family. I heard no one dares to hire him now, for fear of becoming the laughingstock of the entire city. Story 2. When I was in school, I fell head over heels for Song Qiri and pursued him relentlessly for many years. I bullied others using my influence, discarding love letters others gave him, and even knocked over a lunch box that Lin Wanbai had prepared for him. Later, when the school auditorium collapsed, I lost my legs while trying to save him. Out of a sense of obligation, he married me as my parents had hoped. He spent his life entangled with me. As I became irritable and quick-tempered due to my disability, Lin Wanbai said that he was meant to shine within his own circles, instead of being trapped by me, living a life of depression and unfulfillment due to guilt. One ordinary day, I drowned myself in the bathtub. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in my school days. 1. My first encounter with Lin Wanbai ended with my hysterics. She didn't say much, just calmly asked me to let go of Song Qiri. Perhaps it was the words "let go" that triggered me. It made me drop all pretenses and become truly unreasonable. Emotions came swiftly and did not leave just as quickly. When I had managed to compose myself and returned, Song Qiri had already prepared dinner. As soon as I exited the elevator, I could smell the delicious aroma of the plum-flavored spare ribs I liked. "Where have you been? Are you hungry?" He came over to push my wheelchair, tenderly fixing the messy hair by my ear as he crouched down. I grabbed his hand, slightly annoyed. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. "Are you tired, my love?" "When did it happen?" I asked sternly. Song Qiri frowned, puzzled. "When did you meet Lin Wanbai?" "The day before yesterday, while shopping. It was just a coincidence." I furiously slapped his hand, the pain resonating in my own. I knew it. I knew the old flames were rekindled, planning to be together forever. "You despise me now, don't you? You don't want to be with me anymore, right?" Song Qiri patiently bent down, though his eyes couldn't hide his fatigue. Don't think like that. There's nothing between her and me." I couldn't listen. My mind was a chaotic mess. Strange, noisy voices buzzed in my ears, their words indistinct. I felt extremely irritable. So, I lashed out at him. "Get out. Just get out." Song Qiri's eyes reddened as he let me vent my frenzy. When I tired out, he brought my hand close to his face. "I won't leave you. I don't need your pity. Just go away," I yelled, striking him hard. He turned his head from the force of my slap, his cheek quickly swelling. Yet, I forcefully pushed him away and wheeled back to my room. No matter how much Song Qiri apologized or pleaded, I refused to open the door. I was furious. Yet I didn't understand why. Confusion and fear overwhelmed my mind. I screamed and cried hysterically in the bedroom, as if trying to cry myself to death on the spot. When I regained my senses, the room was a mess and it was already dark, only the pale moonlight seeped through the window. I realized I had truly gone mad. The door opened, and there sat Song Chiri at the threshold, helplessly hugging his knees, leaning against the wall. The sound of the door startled him awake. He quickly got up, checking on my condition from all sides. Once assured I was okay, he embraced me. I know you're feeling uneasy, but you must believe, no matter what, that I love you." The light in the hallway was harsh, making my eyes sting. I held Song Chiri in my arms, my hand buried in his hair. In the light, I noticed the slight graying at his temples. A swelling feeling overcame my heart. I realized it had been a long time since I had looked closely at Song Chiri's face. So I cradled his face in my hands and studied it carefully. His eyes were swollen and red, yet his gaze was tender and affectionate. His smile, however, was heartbreakingly sad. Lin Wanbai was right. He should have pursued everything he loved. He should have had a vast future ahead, instead of being trapped in this small place because of me. "I'm sorry," I heard my voice tremble, unable to hold back the tears any longer. I sobbed breathlessly. Song Chiri pressed his lips close to mine, silencing all my apologies. He kissed away my tears, whispering repeatedly in my ear, "You don't need to be sorry. I love you, too." I knew I could fall apart at any moment, because these crazy days often unfolded between me and Song Chiri, taking advantage of a lucid moment. I consulted a lawyer and made a will. After taking care of these matters, I felt a great relief. It was as if a stone weighing on my heart had been lifted. Seeing my condition improve, Song Chiri's spirits lifted as well. He took me to the seaside. At the roaring shore, he loudly declared his wish to be with me forever. He took me on a cable car to watch the sunrise. As the sunlight bathed the earth, he kissed me repeatedly, declaring his love. But those sweet words pierced my heart like a knife. Then, on an ordinary day, I said I wanted to eat plum spare ribs. He originally wanted to go out with me, but I stubbornly stayed in bed, saying I didn't want to move. Before he left, he repeatedly promised to come home early. I smiled and kissed his cheek, waving at him, "Be safe," watching from the window as he waved back and drove away. I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. I repeatedly slapped my legs. Despair, collapse. After calming down, the world was dead silent. I turned my gaze to the bathroom and then crawled into the bathtub. This simple action exhausted all my strength. Lying in the bathtub, I was spent and could only gasp for air with my mouth open. I laughed looking at the ceiling. The warm water from the shower had randomly splashed on my face. I remembered the first time I met Song Chiri. It was a cliché scene from a romantic drama, a rainy day without an umbrella. He entered my heart with an umbrella and his gentle words, and I trapped him with persistence and a life-saving debt for over a decade. It was time to return him to the sea of people, so, like a fish, I plunged into the water, swimming towards the deep sea. From then on, both he and I were free. In my hand was a pink Hello Kitty lunchbox. Surrounding me were jeers and noise. The boy in front of me still looked as green as he did in my memories, his face flushed with embarrassment. Catching sight of my unharmed legs, I momentarily lost focus. Then, my legs gave way, and I awkwardly fell to the ground. Food scattered everywhere, and the jeering grew louder. "Sui, what are you doing?" Lin Wanbai pushed through the crowd, her gaze on me not too friendly. Seeing the lunchbox she gave me knocked over, her eyes reddened with anger. "Sui, what's the point? How long do you plan to keep this up?" I touched my leg and fiercely pinched it. It hurt. Tears of excitement were the first to spill over. The noisy crowd quieted down for a moment. "Don't think that crying makes you right." I quickly scrambled up from the ground, clumsily cleaning up the aftermath. Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, I picked up all the love letters from the trash can. After cleaning them, I neatly placed them on Song Chi's desk. Then, I gathered all the snacks from my locker, and stuffed them into Song Chi's arms. I bowed deeply to Lin Wanbai and Song Chi, saying, "I'm sorry." After a physics class, I came to terms with the fact that I had been reborn, perhaps out of excitement. I cried for the entire class. The old man, looking through his thick glasses, gave me a puzzled look. "Sui, why are you crying? Is it that difficult?" Looking at my test paper, covered in red crosses and scored in single digits, my voice choked. "Teacher, physics is really hard, then you better switch to the humanities soon." The class burst into laughter. The old man, frustrated yet caring, pointed at everyone. "Laugh, you still dare to laugh? Just look at your own scores." Just then, Song Chi finished his questions and interrupted the old man's rant. The old man glanced at his solution, smiled, and nodded. Look, everyone, look. Then he patted Song Chi. Song, study hard, you have hope in the competition this year. Sui, ask Song Chi if there's something you don't understand. I glanced at the taciturn boy and quickly lowered my head. After evening self-study, I ran frantically out of the school gate. My untrained legs were a bit unsteady. Lin Wanbai quickly caught up to me, blocking me at the school gate. Sui, don't go too far. I turned around. What? Song Chi doesn't like you at all. Do you know how annoying you are? I know. I tugged at my strap, feeling a bit guilty. I'm sorry to him. Lin Wanbai paused for a moment, her prepared argument stuck in her throat. I bit my lip, stepped forward, took her hand sincerely. I wish you happiness. Lin Wanbai frowned. What? I know you like him, go for it, work hard. Her face turned pale and then red, embarrassed by her feelings being exposed. You, what are you talking about? It's obviously you who likes. I turned and ran into the night. Lin Wanbai chased after me, shouting, Sui, stop talking nonsense. On Monday, I joyfully moved my books to the humanities class, standing on the podium with my backpack, smiling. I said goodbye to my classmates of 2 years, although it's early. I still hope everyone achieves great success. I took out a big bag of snacks from my backpack. I used to be quite annoying. I apologize here, and thank everyone for taking care of me during this time. I handed out snacks to everyone. When passing Song Chi, I specifically picked his favorite canned yellow peach. Sorry for bothering you for so long. I hope I haven't influenced you. Song Chi glanced at me quickly, then lowered his head. No. Although I knew he was always generous and good-tempered, I still felt so guilty I wanted to cry. In the 15 years we've been entangled, I owe him too much. It wasn't just my own legs that were trapped, but fortunately, everything was still salvageable. It was still possible to make amends, and also possible to give him back the life he deserved. 7. The person blocking me turned out to be Song Chi. At the entrance of the milk tea shop, I was relishing my roasted cold noodles. He stood silently beside me, taking the milk tea from the clerk on my behalf. What's up? Song Chi clumsily hung the milk tea on my fingers and pulled out a thick notebook from his backpack. This is a compilation of frequently tested math problems. The look in his eyes was cautious, almost probing. One hand held the notebook, the other nervously gripped the strap of his backpack. The dim yellow light shone on his head. Why are you giving this to me? I finally managed to swallow the last of my noodles. Before he could speak, I stepped forward nonchalantly, looked up, and grinned. You don't happen to like me, do you? The boy's face turned bright red, like a cooked shrimp. He blinked frantically, shifting his gaze away, unwilling to look at me anymore. A moment later, he seemed a bit angry, his eyebrows furrowed tightly. He slapped the notebook against me. Lowering his voice, I'm just thankful for the snacks, and besides, Sui, we should prioritize our studies right now. Throughout the years we lived together, I rarely saw Song Chi this flustered. It seemed like my endless mischief and madness had gradually smoothed the edges of his youth. Maybe he was going mad too, but while I could still voice my sickness and madness, he could only keep silent in those desperate years. Preserving my ridiculous pride, a pang of pain struck my heart. But I laughed. Haha, you took that seriously. His expression froze. He looked at me, puzzled for a moment. Sui, sometimes you're quite cruel. This time, it was my turn to be silent. I had indeed cruelly clipped the wings of an eagle meant to soar, confining it to a tiny world. I was indeed very cruel. When I looked up again, Song Chi had already walked away with his backpack, disappearing into the moonlight. His shadow elongated under the streetlights, growing more distant. Suddenly, I felt an urge to cry. 8. After my numerous hints, the principal noticed the risk in the auditorium. The school closed the auditorium and planned renovations during the holiday. With this major worry resolved, I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. During this period, Song Chi represented the school in the provincial physics competition, just like in my previous life. He placed in the top 3 and qualified for the national competition. I saw him when I went to the office to hand in homework. The old man, excited, patted his shoulder, impressed by the promising youth. Give the national competition a shot, you might even get a direct admission. The old man took off his glasses, wiping away tears of excitement. Song Chi remained as composed as ever, his face betraying little emotion. Seeing me pass by, the old man called out, Sui, you should learn more from Xiao Song. I flashed a toothy smile. Sure, teacher. Song Chi looked up at me. I responded with a smile. If we rise in fortune, let's not forget each other. He looked slightly embarrassed but nodded in the end. 9. The school seized the tail end of the term to hold an arts festival. Everyone knew that next semester they would face the tough challenge of the senior year, thus, everyone was particularly excited about this festival. In my past life, I was completely focused on Songchili and paid no attention to such events. This time, I actively collaborated with my classmates to create a drama. From the script to rehearsals, to costumes and music, I invested myself fully. At 17 or 18, at the peak of our creative prowess, our original play caused quite a stir. Standing on stage during the curtain call, I was so moved that I nearly cried. It was then I realized how much I had missed in this chapter of life we call youth. After the show, I ran into Songchiri backstage. His white shirt made him look even younger than usual. He had signed up for a singing and guitar performance. Seeing me crying uncontrollably, he appeared surprised. I got too emotional, I said with a laugh, wiping the tears from my eyes. What are you going to sing? Songchiri touched his guitar and replied, on a bridge. In my past life, Songchiri hadn't signed up to perform. Maybe back then, I had bothered him too much, and he couldn't spare the mental energy to participate in these activities. You were amazing, he said with a gentle smile. Really impressive. The host had already announced the end of the interval. I waved at him. It's your turn to go on stage now. Good luck. The drumbeat started, and Songchiri went up on stage with his guitar. I peeked from behind the curtain. The audience was full of youthful, fresh faces, and the sound of the Morin chor filled the speakers. The spotlight shone on him, a figure meant to dazzle. But Songchiri, why does your song sound so full of regret? At last, I chalked it up to the melodramatic emotions of youth. My thoughts suddenly shifted. I wondered if during those nights spent with me, he ever glimpsed moments of his younger days in his dreams, but waking up to the silence of a long night, all that remained was his wife, afflicted with a mental illness. It was all too despairing. Watching him, I was unable to hold back tears. Songchiri, holding his guitar, looked my way. I turned my head, unable to meet his clear eyes. In my past life, an accident at the art festival had occurred. After today, history would be rewritten. I would not lose my legs, and Songchiri would not be hindered by me. We would both head towards a bright future. But it seems there's always someone facing troubles in this world. As I passed by an alley, several people were standing inside. A few crimson lights flickered from a dark box, followed by malicious voices. What are you looking at? Get lost. A man with a cigarette gestured at me. Not someone I could afford to provoke. I shrank my neck, hurriedly shifted my gaze, and quickened my pace. Voices came from the alley. Lin Wanbai, you're seeking death. Then, a crisp slap sound. I stopped in my tracks and turned back to the alley entrance. Damn it, you really want to die, don't you? Haven't I given you chances? The leader said, seeing me return. The group turned to look at me. Lin Wanbai was crouching in the corner, casting a pleading look towards me. I called the police, I said to the leader. Someone sneered. Everyone knows you're not allowed to bring phones to school. You think we're easy to fool, huh? I pulled out my phone from my pocket. Sorry, but I really did call the police. Phones weren't allowed in school, but I always sneaked mine in. A tattooed thug squeezed through the crowd, fixing his gaze on me. What's your name? My heart raced, but I forced myself to look up and said, Buchu. An eerie silence fell over the alley. You just wait. The man spat a puff of secondhand smoke at my face. The smoke made me cough violently. A group of people trickled away, their mopeds buzzing faintly in the night air. I stepped forward and helped Lin Wanbai to her feet. Her face was swollen, and her eyes were red. Thank you, she said, her voice tinged with a sob. It's okay. Where do you live? I'll take you home. She turned to look at me, her expression complex. The one who spoke out earlier is my stepbrother. I didn't want to delve too deeply or get involved in someone else's family matters. Just then, Songchili approached from a distance. I raised my hand. Songchili. I pulled Lin Wanbai over and walked up to him. Little Bai is timid. You take her home. Songchili frowned slightly, his lips barely moving. Time to show some chivalry. I patted his arm and took my leave. In my previous life, because of me, they missed each other even though they were perfectly matched. This time, I would do my best to make amends. 12. The start of senior year in high school. Songchili outdid himself, securing a first-place prize in the national competition. The school celebrated with banners and a dedicated promotional board praising him. Speech under the national flag on Monday. The principal, trembling with excitement, almost fainted as he read from his notes on stage. When Songchili went up to speak, the applause lasted for over 10 minutes. My hands hurt from clapping so hard, yet, he put aside his prepared speech and spoke eloquently and naturally. The applause thundered once again. This time, He truly made a big splash. 13. But fate seems to love playing tricks on people. Just a month ago, Song Chi-lai was basking in applause and flowers on stage. A month later, when I saw him again, he was uncharacteristically downcast. Even during morning exercises, he seemed distracted, like a frostbitten eggplant. I had a hunch, so I stopped Lin Wanbai. What's wrong with Song Chi-lai? Lin Wanbai looked troubled, hesitating. This only seemed to confirm my suspicions. There's a long road ahead. Don't let this affect your entrance exams. Lin Wanbai rolled her eyes at me sharply. What are you even thinking about? So, what's been going on with Song Chi-lai lately? Lin Wanbai gritted her teeth. Song Chi-lai's mom is sick. She sighed deeply. Cancer. 14. I realized I never truly understood Song Chi-lai. I knew he was from a single-parent family and that his mother had high expectations for him. His mother had only appeared during our wedding in my previous life. Beyond that, I knew little else. I didn't know what I felt as I followed him. He had applied for a waiver from evening self-study, just because he needed to rush to a restaurant to wait tables. After the restaurant closed, he washed dishes, until the moon was high in the sky. Only then would he drag his exhausted body home, shoulders slumped, the weight of life pressing down on his shoulders, leaving him breathless. Song Chi-lai is quite proud, Lin Wanbai said. She sighed again. He seems to be thinking about not going to college. If not college, then what? Private tutoring, or maybe re-enrolling in another school to make money. I was at a loss for words. His mother's illness needed money, and all he could do was use his outstanding academic performance to earn it. I want to help him. Lin Wanbai hesitated before finally speaking. Sui, maybe he doesn't want your help. 15. It seemed like at this age, everyone liked to be obstinate. Lin Wanbai was no exception. Song Chiri is like that. Lin Wanbai's older stepbrother is the same. This time he came alone, riding a glowing ghost bike. The strange honking surrounded me. Oddly enough, though he was the one honking, I was the one who felt embarrassed. Sui, I now know your name. He spoke with a cigarette dangling from his lips, his casual demeanor begging for a punch. What a coincidence. My surname is also Su Weilan. Such a pity, wasting such a nice name. Date me, and I'll drive you to and from school. A cringe-worthy cliché that made me want to bang my head against a wall. I just kept my head down and walked on, feeling snubbed. He quickly got irritated. He grabbed my backpack. Sui, are you listening to me? I had no choice but to stop. I've already made myself clear. No dating. Su Weilan was puzzled. Why? I don't like it. What about me don't you like? I can change. I don't like smokers, people with tattoos, those who don't study properly, and those who wander around on a ghost bike all day. Su Weilan shook his hair and flashed a confident smile. Sui, I don't like your excuses. Moreover, cornering a girl in an alley and bullying her is utterly tasteless. Su Weilan's expression changed. He threw away his cigarette and stomped on it fiercely. He pointed at me. Sui, well done. Someone stepped between me and Su Weilan. I looked up. It was Song Chiri. He shielded me behind him. Harass her again, and I'll call the police. Su Weilan laughed. What? Is the police station part of our school, or is it right here in our school? I pulled Song Chiri away. Don't waste words with him. Su Weilan continued to honk his horn loudly behind us. Sui, I'm going to pursue you. How embarrassing. We walked a long way before I finally let go of his hand. You finally showed up. I looked up at him. Don't worry about your mom's situation. I'll figure something out. Song Chiri suddenly turned pale. Just focus on your studies. Especially your beloved physics. You don't need to worry about anything else. I patted my chest. Leave the rest to me. Song Chiri's head was bowed. After a while, he looked up with red eyes and tear-filled. Sui, this is my own matter. I patted his shoulder. Don't be formal with me. I owe you that. I don't need it, Song Chiri managed to say. I didn't realize before how stubborn he was. And I don't like physics. With that, he walked away. Under the streetlight, his figure was upright and firm. This is a time when kids are sensitive and prideful. Lin Wanbai was right. He is a proud person. But I have no disdain for him. I simply want to help in my own way as much as I can. I sniffled again, feeling the tears welling up. I tried to convince my parents to support Song Chi-li. I told them about his excellent character and promising future, how helpful he had been, and that my improvement in math was all thanks to him. I also shared about his unfortunate circumstances and his tragic family background, but parents know their children best. My ulterior motives were never hidden from their eyes. One day, my mom gently pushed open my bedroom door and asked, "Honey, you like him, don't you?" I nodded honestly. "Mom, please help him." She stroked my head, her words left unspoken. My parents decided to sponsor Songchili in the name of their company. They took care of his mother's ongoing medical expenses and his future tuition and living costs. I thought this would at least ease his burden, but he became even more reserved. Even when I saw him during exercise, he quickly turned his head away. Perhaps it was his pride, that's what I thought. The college entrance exam was looming, and I had no time to dwell on these thoughts. Even with a second chance at life, I was still terrified of the exams. In my past life, I was nearly driven insane. I had almost forgotten everything, not just the exam questions. After the motivational assembly, it was an endless cycle of tests every 3 days. The papers were handed out and collected before we could even thoroughly go over the mistakes. Dark circles and acne plagued my face from the stress. Despite being exhausted every day, my weight kept increasing. I felt like a taut string, close to breaking. Finally, when the bell rang and the English papers and answer cards were collected, I sighed a long breath of relief. It seemed like just another ordinary day, but I had secretly lived through it twice. In the class group chat, everyone was noisily discussing the next steps. I looked at Songchili's profile picture, wanting to ask how his exams went, but then I remembered he had already been recommended for admission. The graduation ceremony was held at the stadium. The principal had rented the venue and even set up a temporary stage. It took me a while to find Songchili. He and Lin Wanbai were sitting towards the back, quietly watching the performance on stage. During one of the acts, someone took the opportunity to confess their feelings, eliciting cheers and screams from the crowd, a signature of youth. Lin Wanbai's cheeks were slightly flushed as she looked at the person next to her. My step faltered, and I froze in place. Everything should stop here. I should let him live his life fully, watch him shine and soar. That's the life he deserved. So I turned around and walked towards the back of the stage where there was a large empty space with few people. Finally, I had a moment to think about my own future. Sui, a familiar, cool voice stopped me. My body stiffened, and my face inexplicably heated up. The June wind was warm as it hit my skin. Songchili stood at a distance. Thank you. He was standing against the light. I will pay you back the money, he said. No, you don't have to, I replied, stepping forward a bit flustered, but Songchili took a half step back. Sui, I don't want to owe you anything. I want to do this squarely. Fireworks burst in the sky, illuminating his face. He was crying. I like you. The evening breeze was still warm, carrying the sound waves from the stage and crashing into my eardrums. His confession was like a witch's spell. I stood there, across from him, speechless as if struck. My limbs started to go numb, a premonition of being poisoned. Finally, I asked him as he continued to cry, why? Was it because I reached out to help him? So the butterfly of his youth fluttered its wings, finally stirring up a storm in his heart. But, Songchili, this isn't liking, not even a flutter of the heart. He choked back tears, about to reveal the answer to all this, but the music of youth abruptly stopped, and the stage speakers emitted a piercing screech. I saw the neon lights swirling, the stage collapsing, the steel frame rushing towards Songchili and me. Memories overlapped rapidly in my mind as I frantically lunged towards him. Still immersed in sadness, I pulled him away, then pushed him aside. I saw the brilliant Milky Way swirling, heard the noisy cries and shouts. Excruciating pain dominated my body, as if to completely tear me apart. After a long surgery, the anesthesia plunged me into a long nightmare. In the dream, memories were jumbled, filled with shattered vases and plates. A complete mess. What remained was Songchili's eyes, misty and slightly red, yet filled with a deathly stillness. Waking from the dream, I looked at my legs, wrapped due to injuries, and felt despair and fear again. Could it be that, given another chance, I would still be unable to change the inevitable? No, I cannot repeat the same mistakes. Before Songchili could visit, I asked my parents to transfer me to another hospital. Perhaps my legs can still be saved. Maybe I can stand again. Heaven forbid, my legs weren't amputated. They won't bear ugly scars. I still have a chance. Overnight, I completely removed myself from Songchili's life, like an extra who exits the stage early after a performance. I didn't even stay for the curtain call. I blocked and deleted all his contacts, trying to use this clean and thorough method to quickly exit his life. I'm scared of history repeating itself. I didn't even dare to delve deeper, to question where his feelings for me originated. Perhaps we should sit down and have a proper talk. He leaned against the colonnade in the park, and I sat in a wheelchair by his side. We both gently watched the artificial lake ripple with the breeze. He slowly shared his journey of the heart, and I listened, visibly moved. What then? To love, to marry, and then to suffer through the long years. I no longer want such an ending. I fear I can't let go, and then fall back in. So I can only escape, stay away, the moment before I blocked him. My still nimble fingers danced on the keyboard, weaving a 5-word lie for him. I don't like you. I managed to save my legs, but just barely. They're still part of me, yet they lack the strength even to support me standing up. The doctor mentioned there's a hope I could stand again, but it's a faint hope. My mom was wiping her tears in my dad's arms, whereas I actually found myself smiling. Mom plans to send me abroad, to change the environment and also to seek treatment for my legs. On the day we were handling the arrangements, I quietly packed the things I wanted to take with me. I didn't manage to get much out before visitors came to see me. Lin Wanbai and her stepbrother Su Weilan were among them. To avoid Song Chi Lai, I had been staying at my grandmother's house after being discharged from the hospital. I'm not sure how the two of them found this place. Grandma warmly welcomed them in and invited them to sit in the courtyard. When I appeared at the living room doorway in my wheelchair, Su Weilan stood up quickly. He rushed to my back and helped push my wheelchair. We stopped in front of Lin Wanbai, who was holding some melon slices that Grandma had cut. Her eyes were red, and she focused on my legs. Su-yi, your legs. I smiled and lifted the thin blanket to show my pale and skinny calves. They're still here. I pinched the loose muscles. Be happy for me. I might be able to stand again, really. Su Weilan spoke first, and that's when I noticed him. He had a buzz cut and even removed his tattoos, looking much fresher. There was less fierceness in his eyes, though he still had a bit of a reckless air. Lin Wanbai hesitated, glancing at me and then at Su Weilan. Why are you looking at me? Su Weilan snapped. I waved him off. I want to talk to Lin Wanbai alone. Step away for a bit. What can't I hear? He was slightly upset. If it weren't for me, would she have found you, Su Weilan? Do you really need to be involved in a girl's topic? He reluctantly tried to stay, but after I crossed my arms and showed annoyance, he walked away sulkily. It was just Lin Wanbai and me in the courtyard now. She lifted her red eyes to me. Song Chi Lai, he's been looking for you. Hearing that name gave me a feeling as if ages had passed. I quickly averted my gaze and picked up a piece of sweet melon from the table. What does he want with me? Su-yi, can't you see that he likes you? The melon that tasted so sweet yesterday now seemed utterly bland. I bit into it harshly. What are you trying to say? Weren't you fond of him before? Why are you avoiding him now? I don't like him. It was just for fun back then. I quickly finished the melon and wiped my mouth as I looked at her. Besides, I'm going abroad soon. I'll be kissing foreign cheeks. She froze, her face turning pale. She opened her mouth to speak but eventually lowered her gaze. You applied to the same school as him, didn't you? Lin Wanbai nodded. I feigned ease. Perfect. Then you can pass on the message for me. Tell him not to look for me anymore. Consider any so-called favors as compensation for the times I played with him. So, all your pestering and clinging to him, that was just you playing with him. Yeah, I said unabashedly. I've had a privileged life since childhood, always getting whatever I wished for, whether it was the stars or the moon. He was so aloof back then, looking at me as if I were a dog. There's a song that goes, what you can't get always causes unrest. I smacked my lips and shook my head. Lin Wanbai, he and I are from different worlds. And I never imagined he'd be so dull as to say he likes me. It was me who idealized him. Once he came down from his pedestal, I suddenly found him utterly bland. Lin Wanbai's face turned red and then pale, as if performing a quick change act. Then why did you save him? Who doesn't want to be a hero? Besides, we've been classmates for so many years. And he was confessing his feelings for me at that moment. It would have been too pitiful to just watch indifferently. Lin Wanbai pulled out her phone from her bag. Did you hear that? It felt like a rush of blood to the crown of my head, tingling uncomfortably. Song Chiliai, your affection is worthless to her. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Lin Wanbai hung up furiously. When she looked at me, she fought back tears but was smiling. I will win him over and be with him. Su-yi, you've missed out on a really great person. She then got up and left. I sat there, feeling as if my soul had been drained. Su Weilan came over, clueless, and grabbed some fruit. What kind of fruit is this? It's so sweet. Only the wind blew in response. What were you guys talking about? Did Lin Wanbai say something to you? I'll sort her out. I forced a smile. Su Weilan, that's your sister. He scoffed. I never considered her my sister. If it weren't for her and her mother, my father wouldn't have been so heartless. I didn't know the specifics of his family feud and had no right to judge. By the way, I'm going back to school, he said, grabbing another piece of fruit and smiling happily. With this change, can I pursue you now? No, why? I've changed everything you didn't like. Love doesn't work like that. There are not always clear reasons. He finished eating the fruit in frustration, his teeth gritted. I don't believe it, I will pursue you. Life on the other side of the ocean was barely manageable. I juggled between hospital visits and schoolwork, burdened by my feeble legs. By graduation, I could barely stand up from my wheelchair, first for 3 seconds, then 10, then half a minute. I excitedly video called my parents, miraculously standing up from my wheelchair. My mom opened her mouth in shock, and my dad quickly covered it to stifle her scream. I gasped for air, standing for 1 minute and 32 seconds. It was a new record since I had been able to stand. Even though I was sweating profusely, I was overjoyed, like the little mermaid who gained legs and stepped onto land from the depths of the ocean. I fell back into the wheelchair, laughing heartily until I ended up sobbing. My mom praised me through her tears, eventually also breaking down crying. Dad silently shed tears and immediately changed the call to a video conference, deciding to visit me with Mom overnight. I can stand up now, eventually. I'll be able to walk, to run, and to jump. When I was able to walk independently again, I came across news about Song Chi. He had secured a position for his master's program during his undergraduate studies, and later went straight into a combined master's and PhD program due to his publication of a significant paper. He has risen high, like many others. I have begun to look up to him. He appeared as a special guest in an interview, casually promoting physics, thanks to his good looks. He sparked a heated online debate, so handsome, so aloof, playing with me is nothing like playing with a dog, wishing I'd pass physics at the end of term, pity he studies physics, wonder if we'd have anything in common after getting married. Amidst the flurry of discussions, his past was dug up, and so was the news of my dismal grades in physics. Someone leaked that I had once pursued him aggressively, making it sound very dramatic. Wow, handsome and smart. I'd chase him too if I were his classmate, the aloof scholar and the beautiful fool. I'm here for it. Like a real-life Xiang Qin and Ji Shu, the netizens discussed wildly, even speculating about the outcome for Song Chi and me. Facing what was said online, I moved far away. While Song Chi was engrossed in his research, they let their imaginations run wild with speculation. Finally, an alumnus of Song Chi stepped forward to set the record straight, stating that Lin Wanbai and he were the true match of talents and beauty. That's when I was overlooked. A small group of people still shipped Song Chi and me. Some even dug up my social media accounts and found my photos, but it didn't make much of a splash. It's the talented couples that people love to see. Anything else is just a sideshow. During the grand anniversary celebration of University A, Song Chi and Lin Wanbai were invited as distinguished alumni. The event was a hot topic online, and University A kept up with the trend by live-streaming the celebration. The public's enthusiasm for gossip was undiminished, with some bold enough to ask about his personal life during the interaction segment. The host awkwardly mentioned privacy and tried to deflect the topic. Song Chi smiled gently, took the microphone, and began to tell a story. This is a story about love. A man kissed his wife on the forehead before leaving home to buy groceries. She waved at him with a smile, reminding him to be careful. On his way home, remembering his wife was in good spirits today, he bought her a bouquet of flowers. He also picked up her favorite cake from the past. Seeing the lights on at home, his heart filled with happiness. But when he reached his apartment and called out several times, his wife didn't come to the door. He thought she'd be happy to see the flowers he brought. Perhaps she was upset because he was gone too long. He entered the living room and found it empty. She wasn't there. It seemed she was annoyed by his late return. He walked familiarly to the bedroom, softly apologizing. The bedroom door was ajar and unresponsive. It seemed she was giving him the silent treatment. He pushed the door open, and the bed was empty in the darkness. He became anxious, quickly turned on the light, and scanned the room. His wife was nowhere. Not even her phone was there. His heart started pounding chaotically, and he began calling out her name, but no one responded. Maybe she went out. He tried to reassure himself. Suddenly, he turned his gaze towards the bathroom, a bad feeling rising in him, almost crawling. He made his way to the bathroom door. The door was locked, and he couldn't open it. He suddenly felt a surge of fear and began to frantically bang on the door, calling out his wife's name as he did so. When the door burst open, he saw the empty wheelchair, and his wife, lying quietly in the bathtub. The bathtub was filled with water, and his wife lay there, submerged, like a sleeping princess. He lifted his wife from the bathtub, his throat releasing a mournful cry. He called her name over and over, but couldn't wake her. In tales, the prince awakens the sleeping beauty with a kiss. He tried to do the same, but he was no prince. And his kiss held no magic. Song Chili stopped abruptly. His eyes scanning the juniors and seniors seated below. Their faces were a mix of confusion and some even showed disdain. The comments on the live feed were relentless. What's this? So, that's it. Is the gap between me and the top student really that big? What is he talking about? What wife? Is the top student married? Is my fantasy couple going to break up? Someone in the audience loudly asked him, Senior, who do you really like? Lin Wambai averted her gaze silently. A sudden pain gripped Song Chili's heart. He thought he had made himself very clear, that there would be someone who resonated with his feelings, who understood what he meant, but that person seemed unwilling to respond, just as silently as choosing to drown in the bathtub. She chose to drift away from him. In her will, Sui left all her assets to him. She wanted him to continue his physics research, to pursue his passions. Only then did he realize that throughout their decade-long marriage, Sui had thought he stayed only out of gratitude, but every confession he made came from the depths of his heart. He truly loved Sui. From the moment she stumbled into his life and eventually his heart, her unreasonable tantrums, her smugness when she sneaked glances, he noticed them all, and in the end, he personally buried Sui. In a small box, he placed his lifelong love. He followed her wishes and silently dedicated himself to physics, but his passion was never truly physics. He was almost mad. Driven by a certain obsession, others thought he was engrossed in academia, but only he knew what he truly wanted to do. He tried to unravel the universe, to solve the mysteries of time. He tried to return to the past, to the beginning of their story. He told himself throughout the decades that separation was not to be feared. Even if he never succeeded, he would become the wind. The atoms in the universe do not perish. He would meet her again someday, even if, in the end, it was only as particles of dust, nestled together. In his final year, plagued by illness, he solved the equation of time. He successfully traversed the seas of time, passed through the flowers of memory, and touched the moments of her. But it was only for a moment. He tried, failed, and tried again, over and over, his growing madness fueled by undying love. He borrowed the lyrics to sing in He Chiao. Let me take one more look at you. But his time was too short, before he could say hello. He had to rush off, hoping for a next time. He kept trying, kept failing, until he stood before her, tears streaming down his face. He said, I like you. After he spoke, he regretted it. He should have been bolder and said, I love you. He had so much to tell her, how his heart fluttered for her, how willingly he loved, how her pain hurt him, his decades of love and longing. But as the world spun, he was pulled back again. Until his body withered, he approached the brink of death. He held their joint photograph and peacefully awaited death, but instead, he awoke once more. He had crossed the seas of time, plucked the flowers filled with longing. He had to find her. He had to express his overflowing love, to hold her hand tightly, never to let go again. At this moment, on the other side of the ocean where spring is just beginning, the salty sea breeze, mingled with the scent of flowers, hits my face. I crouch down, covering my face, unable to cry out. The live broadcast has not yet been cut off, and the confession finally travels across the sea of time, reaching my ears from the other end of the phone. Sui, I love you. Where are you? I'll come find you. Story 2. When I was 4, during a charity trip to the mountains with my parents, I was nearly kidnapped by traffickers. It was Chawan who saved me. My parents offered to sponsor her, and seizing the opportunity, she played the victim and ingratiated herself into our home using her tragic circumstances as leverage. Driven by jealousy, she later killed me and poisoned my parents, taking over our villa and wealth. My whole family met a tragic end, yet she thrived by flaunting her wealth and became a major internet celebrity with millions of fans. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing in Chawan's drafty stone house. Before my parents could propose sponsoring Chawan, I timidly asked, Mom, what does little bastard mean? Hearing me swear, my mom's face turned stern immediately. Who taught you that? I naively pointed at Chawan's mother. Auntie called me that, and she also took Grandma's jade necklace. Chawan's mother turned deathly pale instantly, standing by. The skinny Chawan had been lost in thought the whole time. My dad was the first to react, going to fetch my mom's purse. Sure enough, the jade necklace was missing. My grandmother had passed away last month, and the necklace was the only thing she left for my mom. Our charity trip to the mountains was also to fulfill my grandmother's last wish to donate her legacy. In my past life, we only realized the necklace was missing after returning home. Due to the necklace's value, my mom reported it to the police, but in the underdeveloped mountain area, with no surveillance on the roads and a complex population spread across villages. It was impossible to find, Qiao Wan's mother wailed. Claiming we were slandering her, her demeanor made her look innocent. It was only after my death that I saw Qiao Wan's mother, unable to get money from Qiao Wan and desperate to buy her son a house and get him married, sell the necklace. While I was still in shock, Qiao Wan's mother, furious to the extreme, spit at us, picking up a farming tool. She drove us out. What kind of philanthropists are you? Looking down on us just because we're poor, you damn little bastards, get out. Her shrewish curses attracted many neighbors. This also snapped Qiao Wan out of her daze. With clarity returning to her eyes after a brief pause, she rushed past her mother and came out. Uncle, Auntie, it was my mom who took the necklace. I'll get it and return it to you. I really want to go to school. Please help me. Considering I saved Man yesterday, hearing Qiao Wan's words, her mother's features contorted in rage. You ungrateful wretch. To curry favor with these rich folks you even slander your own mother. I'll kill you. Qiao Wan's mother ruthlessly hit her with a shovel again and again. Many villagers tried to intervene but were pushed away with the shovel. The village echoed with Qiao Wan's screams. Finally, my parents called the police. The police arrived in time and put an end to the chaos. After Qiao Wan's mother was restrained, Qiao Wan, injured and limping, went into the inner room. She brought out the jade necklace. Caught red-handed, Qiao Wan's mother was arrested on the spot. My parents secured the necklace but made no mention of the sponsorship. When Qiao Wan's father returned from the fields, my dad gave him some money as a gesture of appreciation. As we prepared to leave, Qiao Wan shouted in disbelief, "Wait, that's it." My mom turned to look at her puzzled. And my dad instinctively shielded me with his body. It's not supposed to be like this. You were going to sponsor me. If it wasn't for me, this cheap, no, man would have been kidnapped. Mom, Dad, you'll take me with you, right? Her frantic words confused others, but I understood. In her previous life, to maintain her facade of a wealthy and privileged woman, she said my parents were like her own. Immediately calling them Mom and Dad, my mom corrected her a few times. And seeing that she didn't change, she simply stopped mentioning it. My dad just avoided her altogether. I never expected Qiao Wan to have been reborn too. Hearing her address us, both my parents' faces darkened. Qiao Wan's father instantly changed his expression, cursing as he slapped her on the head. Qiao Wan, her eyes filled with rage, tried to fight back, but her father kicked her down to the ground. My mom covered my eyes with her hands and quickly hugged me into the car. Meanwhile, Qiao Wan, barefoot, chased after the car, crying and shouting, until she could no longer keep up with us. My dad shifted his gaze from the rearview mirror and asked with a frown, "Does this girl have some mental issues? With parents like that, it would be odd if she turned out well. It's a good thing we didn't start off by offering to sponsor her, otherwise, we would never be able to shake them off like a sticky plaster." My dad nodded in agreement. My eyelashes slowly drooped twice. Qiao Wan didn't know that my parents highly value my education. After encountering Qiao Wan's family, they would never let me get involved with her. Before we left, a village representative found us. Dingxi village was poor and remote, with too many children unable to afford schooling. Missing this opportunity, who knows when the next one would come. She handed my parents a list. Each child on the list had their photo and family information attached. She hoped my parents could sponsor at least one child's education. After yesterday's incident with Qiao Wan's family, my parents were somewhat reluctant, but facing the earnest look of the village representative, they didn't know how to refuse. I casually flipped through the list and said, "Mom and Dad, the person who saved me the day before yesterday is this big brother here." Upon hearing this, my parents turned their heads. The village representative, recognizing the child I pointed to, immediately beamed with joy. "That's little Ayuan. He just started 3rd grade and ranked first in the recent baseline assessment in our town. His mom was a college graduate from our village. She had to give up her job in the city and return home to take care of her father after he broke his leg at a construction site. Then she got married and had children. After discussing, my parents relented. They decided to visit Song Ziyuan's home the next day. I insisted on going right away to thank the big brother in person. Unable to persuade me otherwise, my parents drove us there. In my past life, it was indeed Song Ziyuan who saved me from a kidnapper. When Qiao Wan and I were running, Song Ziyuan held the kidnapper tightly around the waist to stop him from chasing us. I originally wanted to call for help to save him, but Qiao Wan told me that the kidnapper was a relative of Song Ziyuan's family. They staged this whole drama to swindle money from my parents. I believed it to be true. I met Song Ziyuan again when I started university. He returned to our school as an outstanding graduate to give a speech. The school was full of legends about him. They said he was the only person in the history of University B to be both a scholar and a heartthrob. He studied interior design and started taking on projects to earn money since his freshman year, before even graduating. He received offers from several top companies. After building connections and gaining experience in a major company, he quickly resigned to start his own business and had become a leader in his field. I never imagined that such a person would confess his feelings to me, but I publicly rejected him because of what happened in my childhood, until Song Ziyuan attended my funeral. From the sarcastic and derogatory comments of Qiao Wan, I learned that after we fled that day, Song Ziyuan was beaten by the kidnapper, breaking his leg and nearly causing a lifelong disability. The kidnapper was not his relative. The last memory I had was at a social media awards ceremony backstage, where Song Ziyuan fiercely plunged a pen into Qiao Wan's forehead. In my past life, he avenged me. This time, it was my turn to protect him. In the hospital, Song Ziyuan's parents warmly welcomed us. After understanding the situation, my parents immediately arranged for Song Ziyuan's transfer to another hospital. They consulted an orthopedic expert from the provincial hospital for a specialist examination. After confirming that Song Ziyuan's leg could fully recover, his parents, with tears in their eyes, expressed their gratitude to my parents. At his bedside, I asked Song Ziyuan, "Does it hurt?" He shook his head. I looked at him intently and said, "Big brother, thank you for that day. You have to get well soon." "I will." "What's your name?" he asked. "Shen Man. My name is Song Ziyuan. Here, this is for you." He opened his palm to reveal my hair clip. In my previous life, after I rejected him, he returned the same hair clip to me. Back then, I threw it straight into the trash can. Now, I wish I could go back in time and slap myself for that. When I looked up at him again, my eyes curved into a smile. "Keep this as a memento, big brother. Remember me, and when I grow up, I'll come to find you, okay?" Song Ziyuan carefully closed his hand around the hair clip again. My parents decided to sponsor Song Ziyuan's education, perhaps as an aftermath of being reborn. I fell ill with a high fever for a week once I got home. As soon as the fever subsided, I heard the tragic news about Song Ziyuan's family. Song Ziyuan's parents had died. Someone had poisoned their pot with rat poison. Song Ziyuan avoided this fate as he was staying in the hospital. The culprits were Qiao Wan's parents. They resented the Song family for taking the sponsorship they desired and harbored this grudge. Taking advantage of a visit to the hospital, they sneaked in and poisoned the pot. After the incident, they stood by as if nothing had happened, merely spectators to the tragedy. Song Ziyuan was now an orphan. Most of his relatives, barely making ends meet themselves, were unwilling to take him in. His education became an uncertainty. The village then called my parents to inform them of the details and suggested we temporarily halt our sponsorship. After discussing it, my parents decided to adopt Song Ziyuan. When we went to pick up Song Ziyuan, from afar, I could see a crowd gathered at the door of his hospital room. Through the noise, I heard Qiao Wan's sobbing voice. "Song Ziyuan, I beg you, please sign the forgiveness document. If my parents are imprisoned, it will ruin my life." I pushed through the crowd. I saw Qiao Wan kneeling at Song Ziyuan's feet, repeatedly bowing her head in desperation. I was immediately infuriated and rushed forward to pull her up. With a slap, I struck her face sharply. Everyone was shocked. Qiao Wan, regaining her composure, yelled, "What are you doing, Shen Man?" I was about to scold her, but seeing my parents approaching, I swallowed my words and instead said in a childlike tone, "Big sister, your parents killed Big Brother's parents. And you're forcing him to forgive them. You're a bad person. Also, I don't think I ever told you my name, so how did you know I'm Shen Man?" Reminded by my words, my parents also reacted. My mother quickly took me away, soothing me softly. My father, eyes full of suspicion, stared at Qiao Wan. "You and your parents had your sights set on our family from the start, didn't you? Was that human trafficker also hired by you?" In my past life, my parents had taken great care of Qiao Wan to make her feel at home, treating her even better than they treated me. They never scolded her for any minor mistake, let alone looked at her with such suspicion. Startled, Qiao Wan hurriedly defended herself. "Uncle, auntie, that day was the first time we met. I didn't know you before, and I had no idea you would come to the village. I heard you calling her Man Man, and I knew Uncle's surname was Shen, so I guessed that she must be Shen Man. Just now, it was Man Man who hit me first. Look at my face." She deliberately turned her face to specifically show her right side, yet, there was no trace of a finger mark on her face, not even a hint of redness. the slap I had given her, though loud, was merely with the strength of a child. I feigned fear and hid in my mother's embrace, beginning to cry pitifully. Xiaowan was furious and ran outside to find the onlookers. "Grandma, tell them, didn't Shen Man hit me first, uncle? You must have seen it, please tell them." But no one paid her any heed. Her voice gradually broke down. It wasn't until the village committee representative arrived and dispersed the crowd that Xiaowan finally fell silent. I only saw Song Ziyuan when I entered the hospital room. Having not seen him for just a week, he looked even thinner. At an age when he should be growing, his face was so gaunt it was almost unrecognizable. Tears uncontrollably fell as I looked at him. I couldn't imagine how a 9-year-old child was supposed to live on his own from now on. My parents and the village committee head were discussing adoption. I walked straight to the bedside, and after inadvertently touching his icy, bone-chilling hand, I wrapped his hand tightly with my little hands and earnestly said, "Big brother, my parents will take care of you from now on, and I will play with you every day, don't be sad." Song Ziyuan finally reacted. He turned his head to look at me. His blank eyes finally focused. Hearing my words, my mother also turned to look at him, saying sympathetically, "Yes, child, just like Man said, we are all willing to take care of you. Would you like to move in and live with us?" Before Song Ziyuan could respond, Xiaowan exploded in anger. "No, you can't adopt him, you should adopt me. I am your daughter, you all like me, don't you, Mom and Dad?" Her voice startled us. Her eyes, inflamed with anger, swept over us. As her gaze turned toward me, I silently mouthed idiot and lip sync. Xiaowan caught on almost instantly. Her gaze turned fierce, her eyes nearly splitting. "It's you, you've also been reborn, that's why you won't let Mom and Dad sponsor me to bring me home. It's all because of you, I will kill you." Xiaowan grabbed a fruit knife from a nearby fruit basket and charged at me. My father, usually so mild-mannered, immediately darkened his face and knocked the knife from her hand. He then twisted her arms behind her back. No matter how much Xiaowan struggled, she was just a child and it was futile. The village committee head called the police on the spot. Xiaowan was suspected of attempted murder and was sent to a juvenile detention center. Unbeknownst to us, Song Ziyuan, who had been lying in bed, was now standing in front of me, protecting me. I was overwhelmingly moved. Song Ziyuan's parents had both passed away, making him eligible for adoption. But my parents were not eligible since they already had their own children. With no other choice, Song Ziyuan's residency was temporarily registered under the name of one of my father's friends. That very day, my parents brought Song Ziyuan back to our villa. Since his leg injury had not yet healed, my father had a room on the second floor of the villa equipped just like a hospital room. He also hired a nurse for him. I registered an account online and hired someone to post short videos on the internet. The news of Xiaowan's parents poisoning a couple in their village quickly dominated the trending lists on major video websites. Millions of netizens online called for the death penalty. Justice was swift, and Xiaowan's parents were soon sentenced. However, 3 months later, Xiaowan was released early for good behavior. Unfortunately, by the time she came looking, our house was already empty. I had known all along that the juvenile detention center wouldn't hold Xiaowan forever. After her parents were sentenced to death, she dragged Song Ziyuan to act out a drama with me. We both were awakened by nightmares every night. The scenes in the dream were always the same. My parents sensed something was off, and with the rise of the live streaming industry in the South, my dad considered a career change. With a grand gesture, he moved the entire family to the South. Later, I heard that a young girl had been inquiring about our family. She had staked out for a while, and only after seeing that we had indeed moved did she stop coming. In the blink of an eye, 16 years had passed. I was now a sophomore in college. Song Ziyuan had returned from studying abroad and started the most popular home decor company among young people in the country, after discovering his talent in design. My parents had pulled some strings to send him to a top-tier foreign institution for further studies. He had made a name for himself in the industry even before finishing college. Many companies on Financial Street had offered him opportunities, but he firmly chose to return to his country to start his own business. When our house was being renovated, we incorporated many of his suggestions. My favorite spot, the southern platform, was his design. Sitting under the eaves, through the small loft directly in front, one could see the distant mountains, forming a picturesque scene. The wind chimes tinkled. The wooden door behind me was pulled open. The person who came draped a coat over me familiarly. "You don't need to guess to know you're here. It's getting cold. Why didn't you put on a coat?" I turned around with a smile, meeting Song Ziyuan's gaze. 16 years had passed. And he had grown into the appearance of a male god from a previous life, but unlike in the past life, this time he had been raised too well by my parents, adding a bit of refinement to his demeanor. Is your company not busy? Song Ziyuan sat down beside me, speaking lightly. Busy or not depends on the situation. Your birthday is coming up, isn't it? What do you want for your birthday this time? This guy. Asking about what gift to give in advance. Slightly annoyed, I said. Just pick something, as long as it's not the same as what my boyfriend gave me. Hearing this, Song Ziyuan's expression instantly turned cold. He stared at me quietly. Got a boyfriend? What does he do? How old is he? I'm not sure about his age, but he's icy, mushy, and very tasty. Seeing an opportunity to lighten the mood, I went to the fridge and took out a Blue Friend cute ice cream. Showing it to him, I said, "Here. This is my blue friend, want one?" Song Ziyuan was instantly torn between laughter and tears. In the dining room, I looked at the table full of disastrous dishes, tears streaming down my face. Last week, the cook who had been with my family for over a decade suddenly had to quit due to a family emergency. So, on my first day back from school, I was faced with various disastrous dishes prepared by my mom. Today's dish, covered in a mix of red and yellow on the noodles, it was my mom's specialty dish. The terribly made scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Under my mom's earnest gaze, I still took a bite. Immediately, I was torn between "Did you murder the salt cellar?" and "Just kill me now." Glancing aside, my dad had already secretly spat his bite into a napkin he had prepared. Song Ziyuan was polite enough to swallow his, but his face said it all. Seeing our reaction, my mom, infuriated, went upstairs to video interview new cooks. The next day, she showed us several resumes of cooks who passed the interview. Among them, I instantly recognized Qiao Wan, not because Qiao Wan was particularly attractive, but because that face, I could never forget. My eyes landed on her name column, and I scoffed. She had changed her name, now called Qiao Fei. No wonder my mom didn't recognize her. Women change a lot by 18, and it had been 16 years. Qiao Wan's features had fully matured, making her almost unrecognizable from her childhood appearance. Plus, she had changed her name. No one would connect her with the Qiao Wan of the past. If I hadn't seen her in her previous life, I probably wouldn't have recognized her either. While I was lost in thought, my mom pulled Qiao Wan's resume from my hand. Out of all these, I favor this one the most. Both her educational and professional qualifications are the best. I frowned. Mom, hiring such a young and pretty nanny. Have you not watched any movies? Do you want me to find some for you to catch up on? My mom glared at me annoyed. What kind of daughter talks about her father like that? Your dad and I have weathered many storms together. If he was going to stray, we wouldn't have made it this far. Aren't you afraid of thieves just because you haven't been robbed? Plus, there's my brother too. He's in the prime of his youth. Before I could finish, I saw Song Ziyuan, dressed in a suit, coming down the stairs. He looked at me with a deep gaze. Clearly, he had heard what I just said. I kept my eyes down, as quiet as a quail. Song Ziyuan walked over and nonchalantly took the resume from my mom. The resume is impressive. 22 years old with 5 years of work experience. Started working at 17. She's too young. Mom, if you hire her, I might have to move back to the company. After returning from abroad, Song Ziyuan had started his own business and was always extremely busy. Being able to come home twice a month was considered good. My mom, already harboring complaints, decisively ruled out Qiao Wan upon hearing this. I wasn't idle either. I made a call to the domestic agency to complain that Qiao Wan had a criminal record. That's when I found out she had bought a fake identity and lied to the company. Qiao Wan was fired that very day, but to my surprise, a week later, Qiao Wan still showed up at my house, as my grandmother's caretaker. Grandma had grown old and often talked about wanting to return to her roots, back to her hometown. My dad had built a villa for her in our hometown a couple of years ago. The caretaker was dispatched by a domestic agency from there. This time, she had come over for my birthday, and I had just returned from a dinner with friends. As I went to pour some water in the living room, I accidentally met eyes with Qiao Wan, who was wiping the dining table. I could see the panic and embarrassment in her eyes at that moment. "Mrs. Back, let me take your bag." As Qiao Wan reached out to take my bag, I avoided her. She looked up in surprise, meeting my scrutinizing gaze. I hinted pointedly, "We don't have that habit here. It's not like some people who don't have the life of a lady but certainly have the airs, becoming helpless the moment they get home." "Right, Grandma." I turned to look at my grandmother sitting on the sofa. Grandma was hard of hearing due to her age and didn't catch what I had said. She just beckoned me over. "Nan Nan." "Oh, my dear granddaughter, Grandma can only see you so rarely, I've missed you terribly." I deliberately ignored her, gesturing meaningfully towards where Chawan was. "So, Grandma missed me so much that you found a girl about my age to keep you company. I might get jealous." On the reflective marble floor, I saw Chawan glaring fiercely at me, and I smirked back at her. But my grandmother, oblivious, continued explaining. It turned out that Grandma had gone to the mall to buy me a birthday gift and had accidentally fallen, and it was Chawan who had promptly taken her to the hospital. Grandma wanted to repay her. She refused to accept anything. Her kindness immediately touched my grandmother. Then Chawan took the opportunity to share her pitiable story of being dismissed and left homeless. So, my grandmother hired her as a nanny. I had calculated everything. But I had overlooked my grandmother. In my previous life, my grandmother lived in the countryside and seldom came to our house, and she had only seen Chawan a few times. However, previously, because Chawan cried about her clothes being old and tattered, and how she was ridiculed at school, she wanted my mom to take her shopping for new clothes. During the shopping trip, there was an accident. A motorcycle with failed brakes sped uncontrollably towards them. My mom was hit while trying to protect Chawan and suffered a miscarriage. The child was already well formed at 5 months. It was the grandson my grandmother had longed for. From then on, my grandmother detested Chawan, always looked at her coldly, and almost considered putting her up for adoption. It was an accidental fall down the stairs followed by a heart attack that led to my grandmother's death. We all thought it was an accident. Only after I died did I learn that it was Chawan who had pushed her. She also intentionally hid my grandmother's medicine. Even my mom's miscarriage was her doing. She feared that if my parents had a second child, they would send her away, so she paid a thug from a nearby village to cut the brake lines and hit my mom. That motorcycle was indeed aimed at my mom. My mom is straightforward and has always been overly protected by my dad. So much so that when she returned home after getting her nails done, she didn't even notice there was an extra nanny. It wasn't until dinner when I asked Chawan to serve me soup. As she was ladling the last spoonful, I accidentally stepped on her toe. She cried out in pain, and the bowl shook from her grasp, spilling hot soup onto the back of her hand. She let go in pain. The entire bowl of soup overturned on the table. The noise was so loud that instantly everyone's eyes turned to Chawan. My parents frowned. Chawan stood to the side, covering her hand, her eyes brimming with tears, yet she dared not let them fall. I spoke up. "Sorry, I accidentally stepped on you just now. Are you okay?" Though I asked if she was okay, it was clear she was not. Although she covered her hand, you could see it was badly scalded, reddened, and even blistering. I had also pressed hard on her toe when stepping on it. It must have been quite a sight. Tears fell from Chawan's eyes as she sobbed silently. Unable to speak, just shaking her head, my mom scolded me perfunctorily. Grandma didn't have the heart to scold me and just took out 2 tubes of ointment from her bag for her. That evening, my dad went to Grandma's room. I secretly followed. They were indeed discussing Chawan. "Mom, this nanny is too young and inexperienced. She can't even carry a bowl of soup properly. Let's dismiss her tomorrow. If you want to thank her, just pay her more money." My dad is a man who can't stand flaws. Whether in work or life, if Chawan had been working in our house, she might have been dismissed right then, but I don't know what kind of spell Chawan had cast on Grandma. My grandmother slapped the table in response. "Listen to what you're saying. She saved me. How could I not pay her?" It was Xiaofei who adamantly refused to accept money, saying that accepting money would change the nature of her good deeds. I heard she was dismissed. And I thought I could help her a bit by offering her a job, and even then, she wouldn't let me pay her a high salary. "You guys are busy with work and can't keep me company, and you refuse to give me a grandson, insisting on going against me by adopting that jinx who brings disaster to her parents. At least Xiaofei can stay by my side every day and cheer me up. Can you?" Amidst Grandma's relentless questioning, my father had nothing more to say. I stood outside the door, feeling the whole situation was absurd. This time, Chawan had simply changed her identity, yet Grandma defended her so vehemently. Such a thing would never have happened in my previous life. It seems I need to come up with a new strategy. Back in my bedroom, there was an uninvited guest. Chawan sat boldly on my bed, casually surveying my room with her gaze. "You recognize me, don't you, Shin Man?" Hatred coiled around my neck like a venomous snake. I stared at Chawan, silent. Chawan hated me just as much. She slowly stood up and faced me. "Did you think moving houses would get rid of me? Dream on. Your entire family met a tragic end at my hands in our past lives, and this time, none of you will escape." She really knew how to provoke me. Hatred and rage nearly consumed me. With all my strength, I slapped her across the face. How dare you? Xiaowan took a moment to recover, then lifted her eyes, red and filled with intense hatred, to meet mine. Why shouldn't I dare? If it weren't for you, I would have been the one your parents adopted, and I wouldn't have dropped out of middle school or been tricked by my aunt into trading myself for a dowry. That man was a beast. I bore his children, yet he never treated me as a human being, even demanding that I serve him and his mistresses in bed. Her eyes reddened further, a crazed satisfaction evident in her expression. I killed them. But I know too well what life is like for a child with no father and a murderer for a mother, so I poisoned my 2 children and escaped. I wasn't surprised that Xiaowan could do such a thing. She was always a cold-blooded and ruthless person. I scoffed sarcastically. Xiaowan, don't make yourself out to be a martyr. Did you kill your own children because you feared they would be helpless in this world, or because you worried they would stain your life? I knew her better than she knew herself, having been by her side for 3 years after my death in our previous lives. Angered by my words, Xiaowan glared fiercely at me. Shin Man, all of this should have been mine. If it weren't for me, you would have been kidnapped by traffickers long ago, never to be found again. You repay kindness with ingratitude, and you will suffer for it. Her last words were spoken through gritted teeth. After Xiaowan left, the tension in my body suddenly released, and I collapsed to the floor. Painful memories from my past life overwhelmed me. As I lay there in agony, a shadow fell over me. I looked up with tearful eyes, meeting the gaze of Song Ziyuan. Song Ziyuan, in his crisp suit, looked dignified and elegant, as if he had just come from an event. He didn't ask any questions, just quietly stayed by my side. I wanted to say something to him, but I didn't know where to start. Eventually, I opened my mouth to speak but stopped myself in time. The experiences from my past life were too bitter and painful. I didn't want to burden him with them. In the end, I cried until I fell asleep on his shoulder. The next morning, I woke up to hear a significant incident had occurred at home. Xiaowan, under the guise of bringing coffee, had gone to Song Ziyuan's room. After his shower, Song Ziyuan found her stripped and lying on his bed, which made him leave the house with a dark expression. Before leaving, he instructed the housekeeper to strip his room and redecorate. Upon learning this, my mother was so angry she had someone throw all of Xiaowan's belongings out. Although Song Ziyuan was not my biological brother, my parents had long treated him as their own son, investing in him emotionally no less than they did in me. Outside, the rain poured heavily. Xiaowan stood in the rain, crying and refusing to leave. Eventually, my mother had the security forcefully remove her. After returning from a spa day, grandmother and her old friends heard about the incident and directly accused my mother. What sins did I commit in my past life to have you as a daughter-in-law? Are you trying to kill me with anger? Back then, I advised against adopting that disaster, but you insisted. I urged you to have a second and third child, offering 5 million for each child, but you still refused. I now live separately from you all. I even hired a nanny, but you drove her away. Is that bed in the gloomy room inlaid with gold? What difference does lying on it make? If you hadn't adopted him back then, where would he be today? Grandma's voice was loud, and her words became harsher and harsher. But Grandma didn't realize that Song Ziyuan is now the apple of my mother's eye. She could criticize my mom, and my mom might let it go, but she couldn't insult Song Ziyuan. For the first time in her life, my mom had a huge argument with Grandma. My dad and I both sided with my mom. Angered, Grandma moved to a hotel that very day. The next day was my birthday banquet. Right up until the banquet was about to start, Grandma didn't show up. I thought Grandma was genuinely angry with me, but then, I learned she had an accident. The birthday celebration was abruptly cancelled. Our whole family rushed to the hospital. We found out that Grandma had been poisoned. She had ingested a large amount of a very potent rat poison. Her organs were failing rapidly due to the toxin. There was no turning back. Even with the best medical equipment, she had, at most, half an hour left. When I saw Grandma again, her hair was white and she looked frail and much older, lying weakly in the hospital bed, tears streaming down her face. She gripped my hand, tightening her hold repeatedly. I couldn't hold back anymore and started to cry. Grandma, man, don't cry. Everyone has their day. It's all my fault, all my fault. Grandpa passed away early, and Grandma raised my dad alone. She had been strong all her life, and this was the first time I saw her cry. She settled her affairs with my dad and apologized to my mom. Finally, her gaze fell on Song Ziyuan. She motioned for Song Ziyuan to come closer and took his hand, her aged face covered in tears. Good child, actually, you did nothing wrong. Your parents' death wasn't your fault. Being adopted wasn't your fault. I spoke to you like that. Yet you came to the hotel to warn me about Xiao Fei. You are truly a grandson sent from heaven to the Shin family. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Grandma cried in pain and regret, tears falling drop by drop. Choking up, Song Ziyuan said, "There's no need to apologize. In my heart, you are my grandma." Those words made Grandma tear up again. Until the last moment of her life, she struggled to take my hand. She placed my hand into Song Ziyuan's. She opened her mouth but made no sound. All the machines beeped once, turning into a straight line. My parents were inconsolable, and in her final moments, the words that Grandma and Song Ziyuan both saw, she said, "Take good care of Nan Nan." Before Grandma's funeral, the police investigated the circumstances of the poisoning. After moving to the hotel, Grandma had made a phone call to Xiao Wan. It's unknown what was discussed. Xiao Wan then moved into Grandma's suite with her luggage on the same day, before my birthday banquet. Song Ziyuan went to the hotel to pick up Grandma. After seeing Xiao Wan, he warned Grandma to be cautious of her. Unfortunately, Xiao Wan overheard this. Xiao Wan put a large dose of rat poison in Song Ziyuan's coffee cup. Luckily, Song Ziyuan got a phone call just as he was about to drink it. After the call, seeing that Grandma was still upset and not wanting to be late for my birthday party, he hurriedly said goodbye and left. Distracted, Grandma drank the wrong coffee. After seeing Grandma collapse, Xiao Wan's first reaction wasn't to call an ambulance, but to run away. Finally, my parents and Song Ziyuan realized that Xiao Fei was Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan had been using a false identity. The trail soon went cold. The police immediately sealed off all transport exits, but even after 5 days of thorough investigation, Xiao Wan disappeared without a trace, as if she had vanished into thin air. Until this night, I was awakened from a deep sleep by thick smoke. The villa was ablaze with fire. I snapped awake from my sleep. I grabbed a towel, soaked it in water in the bathroom, and covered my nose and mouth as I opened the door to leave. But at the bedroom door, I saw Xiao Wan, torch in hand, looking like a madwoman. "Where do you think you're going, Shin Man?" Behind her, the fire roared fiercely, filling the air with dense smoke, and yet, there was a smile on her lips, like a lunatic. I finally realized, "Have you been hiding in our house all this time?" Shin Man, not too stupid, but it's a pity. In our past life, I tricked you into entering a burning building where you died. This time, you're going to burn to death again. Shin Man, no matter how smart you are, you can't change your own fate. After saying that, she threw the torch right in front of me. The flames burst into life with a loud bang. I was so frightened that I fell to the ground. Seeing me in such a sorry state, Xiao Wan suddenly started laughing. "Shin Man, my life might be over, but dragging you down with me doesn't seem too bad." When the flames between us grew taller than a person, I, who had been in a pitiful state, suddenly smiled and slowly stood up from the ground. "Xiao Wan, aren't you curious? My parents and Song Ziyuan are all at home, and with such a big fire in the house, why aren't they coming to find me?" The smile on Xiao Wan's face suddenly froze. She then realized that besides me, there was no one else in the house. Even the servants had vanished without a trace. "Xiao Wan, we shall never meet again. After you die, I will spend a lot of money to hire monks and Taoist priests to liberate you, ensuring you will never rest in peace." After that, I pulled open the door of a nearby wardrobe and stepped inside. Behind me, Xiao Wan's screams tore through the air. "Shin Man, you will not die a good death. I won't let you get away with this." I couldn't hear the rest of her words, because I had already left the villa with my family, who were hidden in the secret room. Only after the villa was reduced to ashes did we call the police. When building this villa, at my suggestion, a secret room was constructed on the lowest level. This room was made of special materials, fireproof and waterproof. Every closet in the villa had a hidden passage leading directly to this secret room. This passage was one-way and equipped with the highest level of facial recognition technology available on the market, ensuring identification under any circumstances. When the police were unable to catch Xiao Wan, I guessed that she must not have left. She must have been hiding somewhere close yet undetectable to us. I discussed countermeasures with my parents and Song Ziyuan immediately. I could have run away at the first sign of danger, but I was worried that Xiao Wan, realizing the house was empty, would escape from the fire, so I waited until the fire had spread to a point where she had no chance of escape. I wanted her dead. Only with her death could I have peace of mind. Throughout my life, I have always contemplated ways to kill Xiao Wan, to kill without leaving any evidence of the crime, but I also left her a way out. If she had been content with her situation and stopped bothering our family, I wouldn't have gone out of my way to kill her. After all, this life was obtained at the cost of my entire family dying once. she wasn't worth sacrificing the hard-earned life I now had. Unfortunately, she failed to see that. After she reappeared, I kept provoking her with small actions, inadvertently showing my fear of fire. She must have thought it was a residual phobia from being burned to death in a past life. That's why she wanted to burn me alive again, but even then, it wasn't guaranteed that Xiao Wan would become desperate enough to set the villa on fire, unless she was driven into a corner. Actually, I knew more about how Xiao Wan had been living these years than anyone else. Her dropping out was my doing. I also bribed her aunt to make her marry the family she married into. I had picked from nearly 100 villages for her. This family was notoriously twisted. Their previous daughter-in-law was driven to suicide by her cruel mother-in-law and 4 sisters-in-law. Her husband, spoiled since childhood, was otherwise decent, but that decency depended on there being no temptations. After she gave birth to a son, I sent 2 nightclub hostesses to her husband's workplace. I kept pushing her moral boundaries, until she became a desperate fugitive. Finally, everything has settled. From the 30th floor open-air restaurant. The river views of the city were all in sight. Song Ziyuan had made up for my missed birthday. After I made a wish, he handed me a gift. What did you wish for? I smiled, deciding to be straightforward. I hoped that Song Ziyuan and I would like each other and be together forever. Song Ziyuan's expression changed drastically, and it was too late to cover my mouth. He was incredibly frustrated. Now that you've said your wish out loud, it won't come true. I'll go buy another cake. And you can make a new wish. He said this as he hurriedly got up. I grabbed him quickly. Silly, I was just kidding. That wasn't my real wish. Come closer, I'll whisper it to you. Song Ziyuan was skeptical but still leaned in close. I planted a kiss right on his cheek. His cheeks, along with the tips of his ears, instantly flushed red. I spoke softly. I wasn't lying just now. Song Ziyuan, I've liked you since we were little. My parents know that I like you too. What about